Chapter 684. Ghost Emperor Xianyu, Ghost Emperor Zhentian, and the others fighting Spirit Sword. As long as Emperor Taiyan was there, Qin Yu and the others would not be able to use their full strength. After all, Qin Yu and the others had to be on guard at all times to see if the Great Yin Emperor's Great Yin technique would reverse their divine abilities and secret techniques. Suddenly, there were 4 sounds of flesh being pierced through. Ghost Emperor Zhentian, God Emperor Xianyu, and the others immediately sensed it and turned around. Their expressions changed drastically. The monarch of Taiyan, who was at the back of the group and hadn't been involved in the battle, was pierced by 4 figures surrounded by lightning from 4 different directions. Regardless of whether it was the emperor's body or the emperor's soul, they were both imprisoned at this moment. Seeing the figure gradually appearing from the lightning, the monarch of great evolution's eyes popped out. Those 4 figures surrounded by lightning were surprisingly all Qin Yu. Do you think that I will suffer the same loss as I did before? The 4 figures of Qin Yu smiled coldly. During the battle in the graveyard of the immortal god. Back then, Qin Yu had been ruthlessly targeted by the Great Yin Emperor's Great Yin technique. Therefore, when Qin Yu charged out, he secretly used the Dragon Qi derivation secret skill and used the purple heaven godly lightning dragon's destructive godly lightning to sneak into the immortal lightning divine formation and approach Emperor Taiyan. To be honest, he had to thank God Emperor Xianyu for being able to suppress Emperor Taiyan so easily. Otherwise, given Emperor Taiyan's vigilance, Qin Yu would not have been able to suppress him so easily. Rumble. With a thought, Qin Yu's 4 Dragon Qi clones unleashed destructive lightning divine power and instantly destroyed Emperor Taiyan's emperor body. However, in order to prevent the 7-star ancient emperor from leaving behind something similar to what Ghost Emperor Zhentian had done, one of Qin Yu's Dragon Qi clones formed an ancient mark and sent it into Emperor Taiyan's emperor's soul. Then, the emperor's soul shattered into nothingness. Emperor Taiyan. Seeing Emperor Taiyan killed in the blink of an eye, Ghost Emperor Zhentian and God Emperor Xianyu's faces turned ghastly pale. As for the other 15 late-stage ancient emperors, their expressions changed drastically. They looked at Qin Yu with unconcealable fear. Although it was a sneak attack, killing a late-stage ancient emperor with a single move was a heaven-defying move that was even more frightening than 1,000 years ago. At this moment, they all felt some regret for getting involved in this muddy water. Now, it's only the 2 of you. As the lightning dissipated, the 4 Dragon Qi clones Dragon Qi returned to Qin's body, returned to his Dragon Qis. Qin Yu stared at Ghost Emperor Zhentian and God Emperor Xianyu with a bone-chilling gaze. As for the other late-stage realm ancient emperors, Qin, and you could not be bothered. As long as he killed Ghost Emperor Zhentian and God Emperor Xianyu, then Qin Yu's only enemies in the heaven realm would be the Great Sun Heavenly Emperor and Star Luo. This bastard is ruthless. Don't be careless. Seeing the 10-odd late-stage ancient emperors wavering, Emperor God Xianyu immediately spoke to calm him down. That's right. This bastard's invasion concerns the survival of the entire southern region. If you still have some tricks up your sleeves, don't hide them. If we don't kill him today, the entire southern region will fall into his hands. By then, your legacy will go down the drain. Ghost Emperor Zhentian immediately spoke in a deep voice. Hearing Ghost Emperor Zhentian's words, the 15 ancient emperors looked solemn and their auras surged. I don't want to repeat myself. Today, I'm here because of the death of Emperor God Xianyu and Ghost Emperor Zhentian. If you insist on getting involved, don't blame me for being ruthless. At this moment, Qin Yu spoke. His voice was cold and emotionless. It was as though the 15 late-stage ancient emperors were insignificant to him. Dragon Emperor, Emperor God, since you've joined forces with the ancient demon tribe, how can we believe you? An elder in a black robe stepped forward and asked. His eyes were glistening. Emperor God Xianyu and Ghost Emperor Zhentian saw, and their faces changed. Sure enough, Qin Yu's lightning-fast method of killing the Great Yin Emperor still caused the 15 late-stage ancient emperors to feel fear in their hearts. If Qin Yu was able to convince them, then the two of them would likely have to face Qin Yu and them alone. I don't need you to believe me. Now, you only have two choices. Either you leave, or you end up like Emperor Dian. The green dragon scales on Qin Yu's body glowed. The chaotic dragon spear was also brewing a terrifying power. Hearing Qin Yu's incomparably domineering words, the expressions of many of the 15 late-stage ancient emperors changed. In the 9 prefectures, the strong were respected. With Qin Yu's power, he had the right to say such words. However, Qin Yu's words had put them in a difficult position. They did not know if they should continue to stay or leave. Guys, don't be fooled by him. The reason why he said that he has a personal grudge against the 3 of us is that he wants you to leave. Then, he will conquer the East Continent and the spiritual state one by one and gradually occupy them. Emperor God Xian Yu turned around and looked at the 15 late-stage ancient emperors sternly as he spoke. Rumble. Right after God Emperor Xian Yu said those words, within the immortal lightning divine array, surging divine lightnings were surging. Like a violent storm, they were bombarding toward Qin Yu and them. At this moment, the void was trembling. In an instant, Qin Yu and the other 5 were drowned by the divine thunder. They could not be seen at all. Boom! Swoosh! In the next moment, with the vast dragon power and destructive sword light, the divine thunder that contained violent Dao skills was shattered into pieces. 6 figures charged out with billowing murderous intent. Everyone, the life and death of the entire South region is in our hands. Today we have to kill them here. Otherwise, South region will be in danger. Emperor God, Xian Yu roared. He merged with the Taiji divine diagram and charged towards Qin Yu like a ray of yin-yang light. Swoosh! However, he was stopped by Long Hao, who was holding an ancient sword. The two of them then engaged in a shocking battle. The 15 ancient emperors felt the murderous intent from Qin Yu and the others. After hesitating for a while, they charged forward. Originally, there were 17 ancient emperors on Emperor God Xian Yu's side and only 6 on Qin Yu's side. When both sides stood up, they had the advantage of 3 against 1. However, after Emperor Taiyin had been killed, the 15 ancient emperors' morale had dropped, and they could not gain the upper hand. The ancient emperors were all sly old foxes. Although they were not sure whether Emperor God Xian Yu or Qin Yu was telling the truth, they did not risk their lives because of it. They were waiting for Qin Yu, Emperor God Xian Yu, and Ghost Emperor Jin Tian to fight it out. If Qin Yu was telling the truth, and it was really a personal grudge, Emperor God Xian Yu and Ghost Emperor Jin Tian would definitely leave after they died. Of course, even if Qin Yu was lying, the death of Emperor God Xian Yu and Ghost Emperor Jin Tian would not be a fatal blow to them. At worst, they could just go all out against Qin Yu and the other 5 at that time. Chapter 685. These guys. Ghost Emperor Jin Tian's face darkened when he sensed the intention of the 15 ancient emperors. He had other ideas in his mind. If the 15 ancient emperors went easy on them, he and Emperor God Xian Yu would definitely not be able to fend off Qin Yu and the other 5. They had to think of a way out. Swoosh! But at this moment, an ear-piercing sound pierced through the air. Qin Yu had already broken free from the 2 late-stage ancient emperors and was charging towards Ghost Emperor Jin Tian. Chaotic Ancestor Dragon, who was originally dealing with Ghost Emperor Jin Tian, stopped the other 3 later-stage ancient emperors so that Qin Yu could deal with Ghost Emperor Jin Tian alone. 9 Serene, Purgatory. With a thought from Qin Yu, a black light that was so dark that one couldn't even see one's own fingers started to spread out. The area within a circumference of several thousand feet had turned into a pitch-black space. My senses are suppressed to such an extent. Ghost Emperor Jin Tian's eyes were filled with shock. With Qin Yu's current cultivation level, 9 Serene Purgatory could suppress the senses of Ghost Emperor Jin Tian, who was also a later-stage ancient emperor. 8 diagrams transform into dragon. In the dark light space, Qin Yu transformed into Shenron again and pounced on Ghost Emperor Jin Tian. Ghost Sha, seeing that Qin Yu had locked onto him and he had nowhere to run, Ghost Emperor Jin Tian, whose face was extremely gloomy, roared angrily and used all his strength to activate the Haoqian Ghost Dao to suppress Qin Yu. Rumble. There was an earth-shattering battle. However, Ghost Emperor Gentian was sent flying again. This time, he was in a worse state than when he was in the Eternal Sword Tomb. After all, although Ghost Emperor Gentian had escaped from the Eternal Sword Tomb, his cultivation level had been greatly reduced. However, his cultivation base was also greatly reduced. He was probably not even comparable to a late-stage Ancient Emperor. Now that Qin Yu was attacking him with all his might, he was naturally defeated. Die. Suddenly, there was a bone-chilling voice. Qin Yu's Dao power was filled with destructive killing intent as he pierced through the void with his spear. Oh no! Ghost Emperor Gentian's eyes dilated in shock. He immediately used an extraordinary secret skill to tear open the void and escape into the boundless void. Pucci. However, at this moment, a burst of space-time power suddenly appeared, and Ghost Emperor Gentian's movements froze, and his speed slowed down significantly. For a late-stage Ancient Emperor, the slightest flaw could be fatal, let alone the fact that Ghost Emperor Gentian was hesitating. Because of this, Qin Yu, who had seized the opportunity, used his divine spear to pierce through the heaven-suppressing Ghost Emperor. Streaks of mysterious ancient runes condensed from chaotic dragon chi appeared in the chaotic dragon spear and instantly filled Ghost Emperor Gentian's body. What power is this? Ghost Emperor Gentian noticed this, and his eyes were filled with unconcealable fear. At this moment, Ghost Emperor Gentian clearly sensed an extremely strange power seeping into his sovereign soul. That power seemed to be filled with a pervasive poison. That power also appeared in the power of several monarch souls that Ghost Emperor, heaven-suppressing Ghost Emperor, left in other places. Do you think you can use the same method to escape from me? Qin Yu's gaze was bone-chilling. He would not suffer a loss twice. Previously, Emperor Taiyan had been killed by this move. With a thought from Qin Yu, the sealed Ghost Emperor Gentian was annihilated inch by inch from the inside out. In the end, he disappeared without a trace. Not even the slightest residue was left. When Emperor God Xian Yu and the other late-stage ancient emperors saw this, they broke out in cold sweat. Previously, Emperor Taiyan could say that Qin Yu had ambushed Emperor Gentian and killed him due to carelessness. However, Ghost Emperor Gentian was still killed by Qin Yu even though he was on full alert. Qin Yu's battle power was frightening. Compared to before, it seemed to be even more frightening and astonishing. It's about time for you to die. After killing Emperor Taiyan and Ghost Emperor Gentian, Qin Yu looked at Emperor God Xian Yu, whose face was pale and whose eyes were filled with unconcealable fear. At this moment, Emperor God Xian Yu was teaming up with two late-stage ancient emperors to fend off Long Hao's attack. Now that they were targeted by Qin Yu, they felt a bone-chilling coldness. The two late-stage ancient emperor allies immediately turned around and fled with all their might. Rumble. At the moment when Qin Yu was fleeing, the immortal Thunder Divine Array had also condensed a vast Taiji lightning array diagram. With a loud rumble, it descended and blocked Qin Yu's path. Within the Tai Chi lightning formation, there were billions of power of faith gathered. At this moment, it was as though all the power of the martial artists in Xianyu Holy Dynasty had been gathered by the Tai Chi lightning formation, and it gave off a heart-palpitating fluctuation. Space-time, empty world. Just as Emperor God Xianyu was about to escape, a gust of space-time power swept out from Qin Yu's body. The void in front of Emperor God Xianyu twisted and it enveloped him. Dragon Soul. Sensing the aura of the Dragon Soul, Qin Yu's eyes shone brightly. With a thought, he entered the space-time empty world. At the same time, a gust of space-time power spread out, and the Dragon Soul, who had been in seclusion in the ancient seal of the Divine Dragon, appeared. Are you for real? You have recovered your cultivation? The Dragon Soul was surprised when he sensed Qin Yu's cultivation as a late-stage ancient emperor. He did not sense that Qin Yu had refined a new dragon tri-bloodline. While he was surprised, the Dragon Soul looked at the terrified Emperor God Xian Yu and understood what had happened. Since Qin Yu had recovered his cultivation, it was time for him to take his revenge. Aren't you a late-stage ancient emperor as well? Compared to the Dragon Soul's astonishment, Qin Yu was a lot more surprised. Although he knew that refining the dragon chi in the tomb and the chaotic ancestor dragon's origin bloodline would allow the dragon soul's cultivation to improve tremendously. However, this improvement was a little too fast. The three realms of Ancient Emperor were initial stage, middle stage, late stage, and complete. Qin Yu thought that the dragon soul would have a great breakthrough if it could reach middle stage Ancient Emperor. However, it had reached late stage Ancient Emperor directly. I have awakened a bit of the immortal ancient Shinran's bloodline. Speaking of this, the dragon soul's face was filled with joy. Although he was Qin Yu, a soul that had been cultivated from the body of an immortal ancient divine dragon using his own origin bloodline, the dragon soul was still pleasantly surprised that he could awaken the bloodline of an immortal ancient divine dragon. In this way, the dragon soul would be able to forge a path with unlimited potential in the future. Swish! While Qin Yu was talking to the dragon soul, Emperor God Xianyu, who was trapped in the space-time ethereal world, formed a Taiji ancient blade and slashed it out. It was as though he wanted to tear the space-time ethereal world apart and escape. However, it was a pity that the dragon soul, whose cultivation had reached late-stage Ancient Emperor, had an amazing control of the space-time power. It was no longer the same as when it had trapped a 7-star Ancient Emperor. Emperor God Xianyu's attack had only caused the space-time ethereal world to tremble slightly. Other than that, there was no other effect. How many is this? The dragon soul looked at Emperor God Xianyu as though it was looking at a dead man. Only the great sun Heavenly Emperor and Xing Luo are left. Before the dragon soul finished speaking, Qin Yu's dragon chi surged, and he charged towards Emperor God Xianyu, who was looking at him in despair. Rumble. Immediately, a deafening battle broke out. Destructive Tao power spread out in all directions. Chapter 686. Swoosh. In the space-time virtual world, a ray of chaotic light with destructive power flashed across the void. The Tai Chi ancient diagram shattered, and Emperor God Xianyu's glabella was pierced. His emperor soul was destroyed, and his body was completely destroyed. The green dragon scales on Qin Yu's body retracted, and the chaotic dragon chi disappeared. His appearance returned to normal. How's the progress of Feng Yu and Lei Kuang's cultivation? After throwing Emperor God Xian Yu's corpse to the skeleton Ghost King, Qin Yu asked about the golden flame heaven incinerating dragon and the purple thunder heaven dragon's cultivation. After pouring in so many cultivation resources, Feng Yu and Lei Kuang's cultivation should have a huge breakthrough even if they did not improve as much as the dragon soul. They should be able to enter the ancient emperor realm after their seclusion. The dragon soul said, Ancient Emperor. Qin Yu nodded slightly. Although the golden flame heaven incinerating dragon and the others could not help much, he was not disappointed. Anyway, with his current cultivation, he did not need to rely on the golden flame heaven incinerating dragon and the purple thunder heaven dragon for the time being. After the dragon soul left the space-time virtual world, Qin Yu appeared in the sky above the Xian Yu Holy Dynasty. At this moment, the 15 ancient emperors from the South region and the Sky Barrier Sword Sage had stopped fighting. They were waiting for the result of the battle between Qin Yu and Emperor God Xianyu. Is it over? When they saw Qin Yu and the dragon soul, they could not see Emperor God Xianyu. Although the 15 ancient emperors from the South region knew that it was within their expectations, they could not help but change their expressions. Within a day, 3 ancient emperors had fallen. To the 9 continents of the Heaven Domain, this was a huge blow to their fighting power. If these ancient emperors knew that 5 ancient emperors had fallen in the middle region, what would their expressions be like? Qin Yu looked at the nervous ancient emperors from the South region. He ignored them, and thunder rumbled around his body. Rumble. In the next moment, a bolt of divine thunder shot out from Qin Yu's body and rushed into the immortal thunder divine formation. Immediately, the celestial divine lightning that blotted out the sky came crashing down. Its target was not the 15 ancient emperors, but the imperial city of the Xian Yu Holy Dynasty. Under the destructive lightning of the immortal thunder divine formation, the imperial city of the Xian Yu Holy Dynasty was annihilated. The orthodoxy of the Xian Yu holy dynasty was destroyed. After finishing all this, Qin Yu, burying heaven's sword immortal, and them disappeared from the sky. The ancient emperors from the ancient emperors, ancient emperors, ancient emperor of the ancient heaved a breath. For Qin Yu and the others to leave so decisively, it seemed like the situation was as Qin Yu had said. It was just that he had some personal grudges with God Emperor Xian Yu, Emperor Dian, and Ghost Emperor Jin Tian. After Qin Yu and them left, those 15 ancient emperors also rapidly dispersed. Was it the emperor was? After which, the news spread throughout the 9 continents, causing the 9 continents to be shaken. Many ancient emperors were mobilized as they discussed heatedly. The name of the dragon god emperor once again resounded throughout the 9 prefectures of the heaven domain. All kinds of shocking rumors about Qin Yu from 1,000 years ago had once again spread like wildfire. His reputation was second to none in the 9 prefectures of the heaven domain. While the heaven region was in an uproar, Qin Yu and the others who had left the Xuanyu holy dynasty had split into 3 groups. One went to destroy the orthodoxy of the great evolution emperor lord. One went to the north prefecture to find the great sun celestial emperor, and one went to the central prefecture to destroy the ghost emperor sacred island. Emperor Taiyan's orthodoxy was instantly destroyed by Qin Yu and the others. However, the core powerhouses of the great sun heavenly emperor and the ghost emperor holy island seemed to have already received the news. By the time Qin Yu split up, they had already disappeared without a trace. Whoosh! In the barren state, in the depths of the vast barren plains, a beam of black light shot through the air and flew towards a lone peak, into the body of a person who was sitting cross-legged. In the next instant, that person's eyes suddenly opened. This person was the berserk dragon sovereign emperor, Xing Luo. I didn't expect him to recover his cultivation level so quickly. He had just received news of Qin Yu's return from the South Prefecture, and his eyes shone with a strange light. He had already confirmed that Qin Yu had somehow survived. However, Qin Yu had recovered his cultivation level to the later stages of the ancient emperor realm in such a short time. He had even killed the sky suppression ghostly emperor and the others. This was far beyond Xing Luo's expectations. What's wrong? You have news of an immortal king token? Besides Xing Luo, a figure also opened his eyes. This person was the Luosha crown prince from the outer region. It's not an immortal king token. It's just news of a friend. Xing Luo replied calmly. He hadn't told the Luosha crown prince about Qin Yu and the archaic battle dragon art. I have to leave for a while. Xing Luo stood up and said, I don't know when the people who have gathered the other immortal king tokens will come looking for you. This is a crucial time. Is your friend more important than this? The Luosha crown prince was puzzled. They hadn't chosen to stay in the desolate prefecture because they had nothing to do. Instead, they had used a secret technique to predict that the other 6 immortal king tokens had been gathered. Without a doubt, the people who had gathered the immortal king tokens would definitely come looking for them. Therefore, they had been waiting here. It's indeed very important. Xing Luo said, If that's the case, why don't you leave the immortal king tokens with me for safekeeping? The Luosha crown prince said, Why? Are you afraid of going to the immortal trove alone? Or do you think I'll lose the immortal king tokens? Xing Luo's eyes flashed. It's just a precaution. The Luosha crown prince smiled. Don't worry. I'll be back soon. As for the immortal king tokens, leave them with me. You're from the outer region. Even if you gather all the immortal king tokens, you won't be able to open the spirit world of the immortal trove. After saying that, Xing Luo flew into the sky and left. What's wrong with that guy? Why is he in such a hurry? Seeing Xing Luo disappear in the blink of an eye, the Luosha crown prince narrowed his eyes. Just as the Rakshasa crown prince was pondering whether to follow, his expression suddenly changed, and he looked around without batting an eyelid. In that instant, he felt a familiar surge of blood chi. It was the blood demon's aura. This made the Luosha crown prince, who was about to move, freeze. It seemed like the fish was about to take the bait. The 9 provinces of the Heaven Domain were arranged in a circular pattern, with the middle continent in the center. To the left of the middle continent were the East and South continents, while to the right were the West and North continents. To the front and back were the Desolate Continent, the Divine Continent, and several other continents. In the void between the East and South continents, there was a barren ruin. That place was filled with a strange corrosive power all year round. Even an ancient emperor would find it difficult to stay there for long. Besides, no one came here all year round. After all, that desolate remnant had already been explored countless times. All of the treasures had either been plundered away or corroded. Whoosh! However, all of a sudden, a beam of light shot through the air from this region that no one had come to all year round. This person was surrounded by powerful Tao techniques. He isolated the strange corrosive power and entered the depths of the barren ruin. That person was Xing Luo, who had rushed over from the Desolate Continent. Chapter 687. When they arrive at the end of the ruins, Xing Luo waved his sleeve and unleashed the power of his Tao, causing a series of explosions to ring out. In the sky, a layer of spirit formation was broken, and a faintly discernible spatial crack of around an inch in size appeared. Even those who knew that there was a barrier here wouldn't be able to notice it if they didn't pay close attention. Xing Luo formed a seal with his hands, and his body was covered in a layer of white light. He turned into a ray of white light and disappeared into the spatial crack. Inside the spatial crack was a vast and boundless space. In the center of the space, there was a giant jade stone that emitted rainbow light. It was crystal clear and looked like a mountain peak. On top of the jade stone, there was a ball of rainbow light that was so dense that it was almost tangible. It was filled with divine power. Xing Luo stepped in the air and looked at the figure lying in the ball of rainbow light. It was a young woman. Her clothes were as black as ink, and her skin was as white as snow. Her facial features were exquisite and perfect. She was surrounded by rainbow light, and she looked dreamy. But at this moment, the woman's eyes were closed. She wasn't moving, and she wasn't even breathing. If it wasn't for the monstrous vitality coming from her body, she would have been taken for a corpse. If Qinyu was here, he would definitely recognize her. This young woman was his second senior sister, Ning Qianma, sleeping for thousands of years. I'm really curious. What kind of immortal beast is the rainbow immortal disc? Xing Luo looked at the sleeping Ning Qianma and muttered to himself curiously. Ning Qianma was the same as his master, Xiantian Shenzhen. They weren't human. Xing Luo didn't know his master's true form, but he knew Ning Qianma's true form. It was said that Ning Qianma's true form was the rainbow immortal disc. But Xing Luo didn't know what kind of immortal beast the rainbow immortal disc was. But for Xiantian Shenzhen and Ning Qianma, as long as they continued to awaken their bloodline power, their cultivation wouldn't be difficult. For example, once Ning Qianma woke up, her cultivation would be at least in the Ancient Emperor realm. She might even reach the late-stage Ancient Emperor realm. Compared to those from the Heaven Domain who cultivated for thousands of years to reach the late-stage Ancient Emperor realm, it was much easier. Seal. After muttering to himself, Xing Luo suddenly attacked. Rays of divine light exploded, turning into countless chains that wreaked havoc in the void. In an instant, it covered the entire Jade Mountain and firmly imprisoned it. Buzz! As if sensing danger, the 7-colored light around Ning Qianma began to vibrate. Countless mysterious 7-colored lights flowed and transformed into 7-colored butterflies. These 7-colored butterflies flew into the sky and scattered 7-colored lights in the void. The chains formed by Xing Luo's Taoist magic were immediately blocked by the 7-colored light. Moreover, the rainbow-colored light seemed to contain a powerful corrosive power, causing the chains formed from the pure power of the Tao of the star Luo sect to be quickly consumed. In fact, those rainbow-colored butterflies even flew towards Xing Luo. Whoosh! With a thought, Xing Luo unleashed a Tao of destruction. However, Those rainbow-colored butterflies were like illusions. They ignored the Tao laws and continued to fly toward the star Luo sect. Although the rainbow-colored butterflies weren't fast, they surrounded Xing Luo from all directions, instantly sealing off all paths of retreat. Xing Luo didn't panic when he saw this. With a wave of his right hand, an ancient token appeared in his hand. Mysterious ancient runes lit up on the token, and a unique fluctuation spread out. The rainbow-colored celestial discs that flew over hesitated slightly when they came into contact with the fluctuation, then turned into 7 colored lights and returned to Ning Qianma's body. The ancient token Xing Luo took out was obtained from his master, Xiantian Shenzhen. In the past, when Ning Qianma was in seclusion, Xiantian Shenzhen had personally guarded him. Because of this, the token had a restriction that Xiantian Shenzhen had left behind. It could be detected by the 7 colored lights around Ning Qianma and prevent them from attacking. Xing Luo didn't hesitate. He once again condensed Taoist magic chains and completely sealed off the Jade Mountain. Xing Luo waved his sleeve, and a pitch-black hole appeared. Ning Qianma and the Jade Mountain were swallowed by that pitch-black space. Then, Xing Luo's figure flashed and disappeared from this space. Eastern Continent, Holy Dragon Sect, Imperial City. Master! The door opened, and 3 figures walked in. It was Pan Hong, Tai Shu Kong, and Long Hao. How is it? Is there any news? Qin Yu, who was sitting cross-legged, opened his eyes and asked. There were rumors yesterday that the people from the Ghost Emperor Holy Island seemed to have appeared in the Ghost Prison. As for the Great Sun Heavenly Emperor and the others, they should be hiding in the northern continent's 10,000-mile Savage Assembly. Pan Hong replied, They're hiding quite far away. Qin Yu raised his eyebrows. Whether it was the Ghost Race's Forbidden Grounds or the 10,000-mile Savage Assembly, there were places where no one had set foot in. If they hid in those 2 places, they wouldn't be found in a short time. Master, do you want us to split up and search for them? Long Hao asked. If they didn't remove the roots, there would be trouble in the future. There's no need to care about them now. I'm going to make a trip to the extraterritorial devil race. Qin Yu shook his head. Compared to the Ghost Emperor Holy Island and the Great Sun Heavenly Emperor, who couldn't be found, Qin Yu could sense Xing Luo's location with the ancient immortal token. What surprised Qin Yu was that one of the 2 remaining ancient immortal tokens was in the same place. It was obvious that Xing Luo had obtained another ancient immortal token. Of course, it was also possible that Xing Luo's ancient immortal token had been snatched away, but that was unlikely. Long Hao and the others didn't know what Qin Yu was going to do in the extraterritorial devil race, but they immediately left. AOD. Qin Yu's heart moved, and the void shook slightly. AOD, who was cultivating in the Imperial City, appeared in the Imperial City. How is the relationship between the dragon race and the extraterritorial devil race? Qin Yu asked directly. Before going to deal with Xing Luo, Qin Yu wanted to go to the extraterritorial devil race to deal with the extraterritorial devil race. Although the primordial battle dragon had an obvious barrier, Qin Yu's battle strength would continue to increase if he kept devouring dragon bloodlines. His purpose was to prevent the Luosha Crown Prince, who had appeared with Xing Luo before. According to Qin Yu's guess and what Zhongtian's Sword Immortal had seen in the extraterritorial devil race's Forbidden Land, the Luosha Crown Prince was definitely an extraterritorial devil race expert. Just in case, Qin Yu decided that it would be more appropriate for him to increase his cultivation level and then go find Xing Luo. Another thing was that Qin Yu wanted to establish the Eternal Dragon Nation, but there were only the Primal Chaos Ancestor Dragon, the Golden Flame Heaven Incinerating Dragon, the Purple Lightning Divine Firmament Dragon, and the Primordial Ice Crystal Dragon, AOD. It was a little shabby to call it the Eternal Dragon Nation with only a few dragons. Qin Yu naturally wouldn't let the extraterritorial devil race experts go. Chapter 688. Allies. AOD's face lit up when he heard that. Obviously, Qin Yu asked this because he was prepared to go to the extraterritorial devil race. This naturally made AOD excited. Ever since he woke up, he couldn't wait to head to the outer realm and return to the dragon tribe. Allies, Shinyu was somewhat surprised. No wonder he hadn't heard of any conflicts between the dragons and the devils of the outer realm. He hadn't expected the two to have joined hands. In the eyes of the martial artists of the 9 provinces of the Heaven Domain, it seems that the entire outer realm is ruled by the demon race. But in fact, not all areas of the outer realm are covered by demon chi. This was because there were many ancient ruins in the outer realm, and many of them were left behind by ancient immortals. Those ancient ruins were extremely resistant to the demonic energy of the outer realm. Because of this, regardless of the strength of the Xeno race cultivation, they are unable to explore those immortal ancient ruins. AOD said slowly, "Is that why the dragon race and the ancient demon race are safe and sound?" When Shinyu heard this, he immediately understood. Although the 9 prefectures of the Heaven Domain and the extraterritorial demon race had been at odds with each other for countless years, and the blood feud between the two sides couldn't be resolved. However, Shinyu had once read in an ancient book that countless years ago, the 9 continents of the Heaven Domain and the extraterritorial demon clan used to be in the same area. However, after the last great battle, the two were separated. The Heaven Domain was split into the 9 prefectures while the extraterritorial realm was invaded by the demonic chi, giving birth to the extraterritorial demon race. Since then, the two sides had been in constant battle. Therefore, Shinyu was not surprised when AOD said that there were ancient, immortal ruins in the extraterritorial devil race. That's right. The extraterritorial devil race obtained the treasures and inheritances in those ancient ruins through us. As a price, our 2 races can survive in those ancient ruins. Furthermore, the extraterritorial devils won't be able to attack us, so we can travel freely between the heaven realm and the extraterritorial devils. AOD nodded. That was why he could safely escape from the extraterritorial demon clan's territory to the 9 continents of the Heaven Domain. So you're saying that as long as we go to the dragon clan's territory, the extraterritorial devils won't be able to interfere in the battle between us and the dragon clan? Chinyu's eyes lit up. Although Chinyu's cultivation had recovered to the late ancient emperor realm, he was still in the late ancient emperor realm. However, this didn't mean that he could go against the entire Outer Realm devil race by himself. After all, the overall strength of the Xeno race wasn't inferior to the 9 prefectures in the Heaven Domain. Once he was surrounded by the Xeno race, then it would be dangerous. You can say that. However, the ancestors of our clan had a close relationship with the devil race. If they fled to the territory of the devil race, the imperial clan and the royal clan would definitely protect them. Therefore, if we want to take action, we must trap the entire dragon clan with lightning speed. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to catch them all in one go. AOD said, although it was a little strange to discuss how to deal with the dragon race together with Chinyu, the culprit who had banished the entire dragon race to the outer space, AOD said. However, to AOD, taking revenge for the past was more important. Moreover, he had already been placed under the restriction and had chosen to submit to Chinyu. Naturally, he could not go against Chinyu's wishes. Of course, AOD also had a selfish motive. He wanted to witness the re-establishment of the Eternal Dragon Nation. This was also AOD's initial ambition. It seems that if I want to go to the outer space, I can't let others know my whereabouts. Chinyu muttered to himself. Bang! At this moment, the door of the hall opened. Long Hao, who had left earlier, rushed in. From his expression, it seemed that something big had happened. What's wrong? Chinyu looked at Long Hao. Long Hao was now a peak late-stage ancient emperor and had inherited the inheritance of the Eternal Sword Mound's owner. In the future, it wouldn't be difficult for him to break through the late-stage ancient emperor realm and enter the ancient emperor realm. He might even cross the martial path realm and enter the heavenly path realm. Just now, Xing Luo sent a secret letter. Long Hao's expression was solemn as he passed a secret letter to Chinyu. Long Hao still attached great importance to his former martial uncle, Xing Luo. After all, when he was still young, Xing Luo and Qin Yu had become ancient emperors who ruled over the 9 prefectures of the heaven domain. Xing Luo. Qin Yu's eyes flashed. It seemed that Xing Luo already knew about his news. However, what was he trying to do by sending a secret letter at this time? Immediately, Qin Yu opened the secret letter and removed the barrier on the letter. In the next moment, Qin Yu stood up. The killing intent in his eyes surged, sending chills down one's spine. "Master, what's the matter?" Long Hao couldn't help but ask when he saw Qin Yu go berserk. Xing Luo captured second senior sister, who is in a deep sleep. "He want me to go to the immortal god graveyard in 5 days." Qin Yu slowly opened his mouth. His voice was extremely deep and cold. "Second senior uncle? How can this be? Didn't Grandmaster say that no one can go to second senior uncle's place of seclusion except for him? Does Xing Luo have a way to break Grandmaster's seal?" Long Hao was shocked. "I'm afraid he really does have a way." A bone-chilling killing intent surged in Qin Yu's eyes. After all, his master and Sky Burier Sword Immortal had been attacked by Xing Luo before, and Sky Burier Sword Immortal had even died because of it. "Master, Xing Luo must be up to something by asking you to go to the immortal god graveyard again," Long Hao said gravely. Back then, Qin Yu had been besieged and killed by Xing Luo and a group of ancient emperors in the immortal god graveyard. This time, Xing Luo had asked Qin Yu to go to the immortal god graveyard again. He was probably well prepared. "Whether or not he's up to something, I have to go to the immortal god graveyard. I'll take this opportunity to settle things with Xing Luo once and for all," Qin Yu said slowly, coming to a decision. Now that his second senior sister was in Xing Luo's hands, Qin Yu couldn't just leave her be. When he had first joined the sect, his first senior brother and second senior sister had taken good care of him. "Then, I'll go inform Senior Buried Heaven now." Seeing that Qin Yu had made up his mind, Long Hao didn't say anything else. Even he wouldn't leave Ning Qianma in the lurch. "AOD, go to the Outland and make preparations. When I'm done here, I'll teleport directly to the Outland." After being silent for a long time, Qin Yu said to AOD, "You don't need my help?" AOD was surprised. After all, his battle strength was on par with the Ghost Emperor Zhentian in the Middle State. For Qin Yu, this should be a great help. "No need. Go to the Dragon Tribe in the Outland to make preparations." Qin Yu shook his head slightly. If the final battle was in the immortal god graveyard, he already had a plan in mind. 5 days from now, it would be a battle to see which of them had the upper hand. "All right." Seeing that Qin Yu was confident, AOD nodded and left the palace in a flash. Not long after, Buried Heaven Sword Immortal received Long Hao's message and came over. "I'm afraid that Xing Luo will have help from the Outland. Should we call for more people?" Buried Heaven Sword Immortal asked solemnly after learning that Qin Yu had sent AOD to the Outland. Back when he had surpassed the limit of the Ancient Emperor realm and reached the 9th level of the Heavenly Tao, he had still been killed by Xing Luo. Now that they were all ancient emperors, Buried Heaven Sword Immortal felt that it was inappropriate to go against Xing Luo, who was already prepared. "Don't worry, I know what to do." Qin Yu smiled, a cold light flashing in his eyes. This time, even if Xing Luo had the help of the Luo Sha Crown Prince from the Outland, he wouldn't be able to survive. Chapter 689. Although you've recovered your cultivation to late-stage Ancient Emperor, don't underestimate Xing Luo. Sky Burier Sword Immortal said worriedly after hearing Qin Yu's words. "That's right, Master. Since Xing Luo dared to send you a letter so brazenly, he must be well prepared. We have to be on our guard." Long Hao also spoke. "Do you know why I went to the immortal god graveyard with Xing Luo?" Qin Yu said with a smile. "Why?" Qin Yu had only told Sky Burier Sword Immortal and Long Hao that Xing Luo had plotted against them in the immortal god graveyard, and then killed by the ancient emperor. As for the details, they did not know. Because the immortal god graveyard had not only the ancestral dragon, but also the power of an ancient immortal. Qin Yu said slowly. In his previous life, he had been stuck at late-stage ancient emperor because of the bottleneck caused by the primordial war dragon. Therefore, he had decided to go to the immortal god graveyard, which was a great forbidden ground in the eyes of the ancient emperor, to try his luck. In the end, Xinglua had taken advantage of this and plotted against him, leading to his death. The power of an ancient immortal? Sky Burier's sword immortal's eyes shone brightly. If there really was the power of an ancient immortal, it would be a great opportunity for him. So the rumors of the immortal god graveyard are true, and several ancient immortals have died there. Long Hao had heard of the immortal god graveyard before. I didn't sense the ancestral dragon in the immortal god graveyard, but the power of an ancient immortal is real. Qin Yu nodded slightly, but his smile was cold. He did not need AOD's help this time, nor was he afraid of the Xinglua Association's foreign experts, because of the power of an ancient immortal in the immortal god graveyard. After all, there was a living ancient immortal in his body. He had learned from the Blue Qian Ice Beast that after the 9 tiers of the martial path was the 9 tiers of the heavenly path, and then the immortal Tao, which was rumored to lead to eternal life. The Luosha crown prince from the foreign domain might be an expert in the heavenly path, but in the heaven domain, there was no way he could fight against an ancient immortal. Unless the Luosha crown prince had a heaven-defying cultivation method like the ancient battle dragon chant that could suppress the power of the immortal Tao. This time, Star Luo chose to stay in the graveyard of the immortal god. This was exactly what Qin Yu wanted. The light in Sky Burier, Sword Immortal's eyes became brighter. If he could control the power of an ancient immortal, his fighting strength would no longer be the same as an ordinary late-stage ancient emperor. Although it wasn't as strong as Qin Yu's, it was still enough to suppress ordinary late-stage ancient emperors. After some discussion, Qin Yu, Burier, Sword Deity, and Long Hao left the Holy Dragon sect quietly. Star Luo had told Qin Yu to go to the graveyard of the immortal god in 5 days. However, Qin Yu naturally wouldn't obediently wait for that time to come. In less than a day, Qin Yu and the other two quietly left the eastern continent and arrived at the immortal god graveyard. The immortal god graveyard was a barren, forbidden area between the demon continent and the barren continent. Of course, compared to Qin Yu's second senior sister, Ning Qianma, the immortal god graveyard was extremely dangerous and was called a forbidden area. However, there were still many experts who came to explore the immortal god graveyard. After all, the immortal god graveyard was rumored to be the place where several ancient immortals had fallen. Because of this, it was called the immortal god graveyard. Star Luo didn't hide his Tao aura at all. In the immortal god graveyard, an area is shrouded in a gray aura. 3 figures appeared indistinctly in the gray aura. They were Qin Yu, Burier Sword Immortal, and Long Hao. After sneaking into the immortal god graveyard, Qin Yu immediately sensed it. Although the immortal god graveyard was extremely vast, it wasn't difficult for Qin Yu's current perception to cover it. Of course, it was still difficult to sense the many forbidden areas in the immortal god graveyard. However, what Qin Yu and the other two didn't expect was that Star Luo didn't move at all. The Star Luo of the graveyard of the immortal god didn't have the slightest intention of concealing himself. It was as if he did that, so that Qin Yu would be able to find him immediately. Of course, even if Star Luo was hiding his movements, Qin Yu could easily find him with the ancient immortal token. Apart from Star Luo, I don't seem to sense any other Tao aura. Burier, Sword Immortal, and Long Hao also sense Star Luo's aura. Does Star Luo want to fight one-on-one? After this thought appeared in Qin Yu's mind, he immediately rejected it. After the ambush thousands of years ago, Star Luo should know that Qin Yu wouldn't come alone. He must have made some secret preparations. Thinking of this, Qin Yu couldn't be bothered to guess Star Luo's intentions. He immediately flew into the depths of the immortal god graveyard. Before long, Qin Yu and Burier, Sword Immortal, sensed the existence of the ancient immortal's power in a gray fog forbidden area and quietly entered. Time passed in the blink of an eye. In the graveyard of the immortal god, above a barren mountain range that looked like molten lava, a figure sat cross-legged in the air. He's finally here. His eyes opened with excitement. This person was none other than Xing Luo. Whoosh! As expected, the space in the distance shook slightly, and a figure flew over. It was Qinyu. Long time no see. Star Luo stood up and looked at Qinyu from several hundred feet away with a smile, as if they were old friends. Where's second senior sister? Qinyu's gaze swept over them as he asked indifferently. You don't have to worry about her. I can't break her formation at all. Star Luo waved his sleeve, and a pitch-black space appeared. A rainbow light flashed in the darkness. It was Ning Qianma. I heard that even Master lost to you. You're really something now, Star Luo. After Qinyu took a glance at them, he retrieved his gaze and looked at Xing Luo with ice-cold killing intent. It looks like you've met Burier, Sword Immortal. You can't blame me for this. It's all Master's fault for being biased and giving you the immemorial battle dragon art. Star Luo chuckled without the slightest hint of guilt. When we were choosing cultivation techniques, they chose their owners automatically. Qinyu's voice was cold. Among the four of them, Lin Changqing was the one their master valued the most. However, it was Ning Qianma, Qinyu, and Star Luo who obtained the cultivation technique in the Immortal Trove. Yes, I thought so too, but I didn't know until later that Master did it on purpose. I don't know what he saw in the future with his innate ability, so he gave you the immemorial battle dragon art. But it makes me very unhappy. Do you know how long I've been planning for the Immortal Trove? Do you know how much I've paid to cultivate such a native body in the heavenly region? But in the end, the most important opportunity in the Immortal Trove was taken by you. Ha! Xing Luo laughed maniacally, as if he had gone mad. He looked extremely unwilling to accept this outcome. Chapter 690. You cultivated a body that's native to this place? You're not from the Heaven Domain? Qinyu's eyes were filled with shock when he heard Xing Luo's words. All the questions that he couldn't figure out in his previous life were cleared up at this moment. He finally understood why Xing Luo didn't hesitate when he ambushed him in his previous life. He also understood why Xing Luo could go to the outer realm to deal with his master. Even when he had sensed something strange about the Star Luo's body back in the frigid plains, he had come to understand what was going on. Xing Luo didn't care about their brotherhood, their master, or their friendship. The source of all of this was because the Star Luo Empire was actually nurtured by someone from another realm. In truth, Qinyu had thought of countless ways Xing Luo would attack him after he reincarnated. However, he didn't expect Xing Luo to be a puppet cultivated by someone from the outer realm. It wasn't appropriate to call him a puppet. After all, Xing Luo was still a living person. Not only did he have vitality, but he also had a complete soul. I've prepared for 3,000 years and failed countless times before I managed to cultivate a perfect body that was recognized by the Heaven Domain Tao. When I first entered the Immortal Treasury, I would have been able to find the Immortal King tokens and obtain the Immortal King's inheritance as long as I obtained the Immortal Dragon art. Unfortunately, I was tricked by that old man. I'm sure you already know what kind of cultivation technique the 9 spiraling Berserk Dragon art is, right? Xing Luo looked at Qinyu with a smile. When the 9 spiraling Berserk Dragon art was cultivated to its peak, one would be able to transform into an ancient Berserk Dragon. However, the ancient Berserk Dragon was just an excellent supplement to the immemorial Battle Dragon art. The immemorial Battle Dragon art could increase one's cultivation as long as one refined the dragon bloodline. In essence, the immemorial Battle Dragon art suppressed the 9 spiraling Berserk Dragon art. In other words, you're not in your true body right now, right? Where's your true body? Qinyu's right hand flashed with chaotic light as the chaotic dragon spear appeared. Terrifying killing intent filled the air. After clearing up all the doubts in his heart, Qinyu's killing intent towards Xing Luo became even stronger. Huh, you want to find my real body with just you alone? If the Heaven Domain Tao wasn't so powerful that my true body couldn't come here, do you think you'll be able to survive? Xing Luo laughed. You don't want to say it? It doesn't matter. After I kill you and search your soul, I'll understand everything. His voice hadn't even finished resounding through the air when Qin Yu suddenly transformed into a chaotic light that tore through the sky. His speed was swift like a shooting star, and he instantly traversed a few hundred meters to appear before Xing Luo. Roar! Qin Yu thrust out his spear, and a dragon roar that shook the 9 heavens resounded. The instant Qin Yu charged out, ancient dragon scales appeared all over his body. He had already entered the azure dragon battling the heaven state. Moreover, he had used the 9 hells purgatory, bloodthirsty purgatory, and other divine abilities of the dragon race to kill Xing Luo. Whoosh! A black shadow flashed by, and the ear-piercing sound of metal colliding rang out. Qin Yu's world-extinguishing spear suddenly pierced into a figure's body. However, that person was not Xing Luo. Instead, it was an old man wearing an ancient gown. Speaking of soul-searching, I remember now. How did you survive back then? This has made me curious for a long time. Xing Luo stood behind the old man and smiled faintly. This is the ancient emperor puppet. Qin Yu's expression changed slightly when he felt the touch of the chaotic dragon spear. The old man in the ancient gown didn't have any signs of life, and his physical body was as tough as a divine artifact. If Qin Yu's chaotic dragon spear wasn't a quasi-immortal artifact, it would have been difficult for him to break through the old man's defense. Compared to Ghost Emperor Tian and the others, his terrifying strength was clearly several times stronger. The strength of his physical body reminded Qin Yu of the long-lost evil corpse refining technique from the primordial era. Clang! The old man in the gray gown moved his left hand and grabbed the chaotic dragon spear. A metallic sound rang out again. His right hand formed a fist, and a ring of vast divine power condensed and exuded destructive ripples. Break! Qin Yu shouted coldly, and an extremely destructive divine power exploded from the chaotic dragon spear. The old man in the gray gown's left hand exploded, and his entire body was sent flying several hundred zhang away. There was a destructive aura raging in his body. You could defeat the primordial profound corpse with one strike? Seems like you're even more terrifying than 1,000 years ago. No wonder the sky suppression Ghost Emperor and the others died at your hands. Xing Luo's expression didn't change at all when he felt the aura from Qin Yu's body. It was several times stronger than an ordinary late-stage ancient emperor. Whoosh, 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 as he muttered to himself, Xing Luo waved his sleeves, and 9 more primordial profound corpses appeared in a flash. A total of 10 primordial mysterious corpses were arranged in a row. Their earth-shaking might caused even the sky to tremble, and it was incomparably horrifying. You didn't really come here alone, right? Call your helpers out. It's time to settle the grudge between us. Ancient black runes appeared all over Xing Luo's body. Xing Luo didn't use the 9 revolving berserk dragon art in front of Qin Yu. However, the black runes on Xing Luo's body weren't any weaker than Xing Luo's 9 revolving berserk dragon art. Yeah, it's time to settle this. Qin Yu's eyes flashed coldly. With a thought, Long Hao, the primal chaos ancestor dragon, and the primal ancestor demon statue appeared in the void. Compared to the 10 primordial profound corpses beside Xing Luo, Qin Yu's group seemed a little weak. However, their aura wasn't weak at all. This is the sword intent of the eternal sword mound? I didn't expect that the inheritance of the sword immortal of the eternal sword mound would be obtained by you. Xing Luo's eyes flashed with surprise when he sensed the vast sword intent from Long Hao. Long Hao ignored Xing Luo. His gaze towards his former martial uncle was cold and filled with killing intent. Hee, the inheritance of the eternal sword mound isn't something that anyone can obtain. Long Hao, you better be careful after leaving the heaven region. Xing Luo didn't mind Long Hao's lack of reaction. Instead, he laughed strangely. Long Hao raised his eyebrows. He didn't understand what Xing Luo meant. Of course, Long Hao didn't waver in the slightest with the battle before him. The sword aura he emitted was even more terrifying. It seems like you guys don't like to talk about the past. Then there's no need to talk nonsense. With a rip, Xing Luo casually tore the void. Immediately, a shocking scene appeared. The void was torn apart like a piece of cloth, revealing a pitch-black space. Qin Yu, Long Hao, the primal chaos ancestor dragon, and the primal ancestor demon statue trembled and fell into the pitch-black space. A Dao Law world? With a sweep of his gaze, Qin Yu immediately sensed it. This was a Dao Law world, but from the fluctuations of the aura, it shouldn't be Xingluo's Dao Law world. This is a Dao Law world that I created by fusing the Dao Law worlds of the 10 primordial profound corpses. It can isolate all external forces. Only one of us can leave this place alive. A pitch-black compass formed by ancient runes appeared in Xingluo's right hand. A Dao Law that didn't belong to the heaven region swept out. Chapter 691. As expected, they've made preparations in secret. Qin Yu's eyes flickered as he sensed the Dao technique world. The 10 primordial profound corpses were comparable to a late-stage ancient emperor. When the 10 Dao technique worlds merged, even the Dragon Soul space-time mystique would not be able to tear it apart. It was no wonder Xing Luo was so confident that he could trap him here. Kill! Xing Luo roared as the pitch-black compass formed in his hand. The 10 primordial profound corpses suddenly charged out. Vast Dao technique, divine power, surged like the sea, covering the sky and the earth. It was extremely powerful. However, the 10 primordial profound corpses were not targeting Qin Yu. They were going for Long Hao, the primal chaos ancestor dragon, and the primordial demon statue. As for Qin Yu, Xing Luo had locked onto him. Dragon Soul, go and help them. Qin Yu, who had just fought with the primordial profound corpses, summoned the Dragon Soul, who was also a late-stage ancient emperor. With the help of the Dragon Soul's space-time mystique, Long Hao, and Long Hao should be able to deal with the 10 primordial profound corpses. As for Xing Luo, who wanted to fight one-on-one, this was exactly what Qin Yu wanted. Rumble. The 10 primordial profound corpses immediately engaged in a fierce battle with the Dragon Soul, Long Hao, and the others. Violent and destructive Dao technique power wreaked havoc in the Dao technique world. Although it was 4 against 10, the situation was just as Qin Yu had expected. With the help of the Dragon Soul's space-time mystique, Long Hao and the others were not at a disadvantage at all. They were even able to suppress the 10 primordial profound corpses. The Sky Burier, Sword Immortal, did not come with you. He must be hiding in the dark to do something, right? Seeing that Long Hao and the others were all entangled by the immemorial mysterious corpses, Xing Luo looked at Qin Yu with a smile on his face. The pitch-black compass in his hand started to shine with mysterious black runes. Xing Luo did not care about the outcome of the battle with the primordial profound corpses. As long as no one came to interfere with his battle with Qin Yu, it was fine. You're about to die, and you still have the mind to care about the whereabouts of others? Qin Yu said coldly. As he spoke, Qin Yu wielded the Chaos Dragon Spear and turned into a beam of light that pierced through the void. As Qin Yu charged out, a pitch-black light that was so dark that one could not even see one's own fingers cover the area. It was like a moving spatial black hole that wanted to devour everything. It was the Nine Hells Purgatory. When he used Nine Hells Purgatory, the star mark on Qin Yu's forehead glowed faintly. The massive amount of heavenly stars' energy appeared without reservation and poured into the chaotic dragon spear. Qin Yu felt that the primal chaos dragon spear was only a quasi-immortal artifact. It would be difficult for it to destroy the pitch-black compass in Xing Luo's hand. Therefore, he kept increasing the power of the primal chaos dragon spear. Divine power of necromancy. Soul-capturing seal. Xing Luo also made his move. The pitch-black compass in his hand emitted a dazzling black light. The pitch-black ancient runes on his skin also lit up, faintly resonating with the pitch-black compass. Then, a pitch-black ancient seal condensed on the pitch-black compass, emitting an intense black aura. At this moment, an intense aura of death erupted from Xing Luo's body, making one feel as if he was an undead that had crawled out of hell. Even the power of his Dao was corroded by the aura of death. Go! Xing Luo waved his hand, and the pitch-black seal, surrounded by a dense aura of death, broke through the void. Heaven-devouring dragon seal. Qin Yu's eyes narrowed. The aura of death emitted from Xing Luo's body made his heart palpitate. This was Qin Yu's first time exchanging blows with a Dao from the Outer Realms. Comparing the two, even though Xing Luo's cultivation was the same as his, Qin Yu discovered that the aura of death from the Outer Realms was stronger than his own. However, Qin Yu's battle prowess was stronger than the others in terms of Jinyuan. Roar! A deafening dragon roar resounded. Xing Luo's pitch-black seal of death was devoured by the terrifying dragon-head ancient seal, and both of them dissipated into the void. The instant the seal of death was devoured, Qin Yu felt that the aura of death within the seal was frantically trying to corrode his Dao and true energy. Dead spirit world. Xing Luo's figure flashed. He rushed toward Qin Yu. Numerous death imprints were condensed from his pitch-black compass. They were attacking Qin Yu in succession. From the looks of it, the space around Qin Yu was completely sealed, making it impossible for Qin Yu to dodge. Indestructible stone emperor seal. Sealing divine light. Golden heaven incinerating golden flame. Divine lightning of annihilation. Qin Yu's gaze turned cold, and he didn't evade at all. One after another, divine abilities and secret arts bombarded him. Qin Yu was testing to see which divine abilities and secret arts could restrain the seals containing the aura of death. The results were out quickly. Whether it was the divine abilities of the three emperors or the divine abilities of the dragon race, none of them could resist the seals of death. It was as if the seals of death were at the origin level stronger than Qin Yu's divine abilities and secret arts. 8 trigrams transforming dragon. Qin Yu let out a deafening dragon roar as he used the 9 Esoteric battle dragons to transform into a vast Shenron. As he transformed into a Shenron, the fortune immortal seal in Qin Yu's soul consumed the stars of providence. With the help of the stars of providence, Qin Yu discovered that there was a wisp of gray energy within the seals of death. The wisp of gray energy was insignificant compared to the pitch-black seals of death. If it weren't for Qin Yu using his stars of providence, he wouldn't have been able to find the wisp of gray energy. Transforming into a dragon, Xing Luo's eyes lit up when he saw Qin Yu transforming into a dragon. The 9 secret arts of the primordial battle dragon scripture made his heart burn with passion. 1,000 years ago, he besieged Qin Yu, but Qin Yu somehow escaped. This time, he wouldn't fail again. Formation evolution. The ancient runes on Xing Luo's body shone brightly. At this moment, those death imprints that were explosively shooting toward Qin Yu suddenly started to rapidly change their positions. Faintly, those death imprints seemed to have formed some sort of formation array. Break. Qin Yu sensed the flaws in the seals of death and charged toward Xing Luo like a torrent. Qin Yu, who had transformed into a Shenron, increased his speed by dozens of times. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As Qin Yu charged out, monstrous killing intent surged out his body. The killing intent was so condensed that it was as if thousands of thin needles pierced through the air and pierced the seals of death with great precision. Bang, bang, bang. Immediately, a series of explosive sounds appeared. The death imprints that were constantly changing exploded one after another. It was Qin Yu's killing intent needles that destroyed the gray air within the seals of death. This guy, he actually saw through the power of death. Xing Luo's gaze changed slightly. He originally thought that even if Qin Yu's cultivation recovered, he would only be at the level of his previous life. But now, he realized that he was wrong. Qin Yu seemed to have more trump cards than he did in his previous life. One had to know that his divine power of death came from the supreme Dao power of the dead zone. Even in the myriad realms, the divine power of death was one of the strongest Dao powers. Qin Yu hadn't crossed the 9th level of the martial path, so Qin Yu, who was at the limit of the ancient emperor realm, shouldn't be able to see through the Dao of death. Azure dragon battling the heavens. Die! The instant the seals of death were destroyed, Qin Yu, who had transformed into a dragon, immediately executed the azure dragon battling the heavens. One could clearly see that the dragon scales on Qin Yu's body were covered in mysterious dragon runes. Qin Yu's aura burst out at this moment. It was more than 10 times more terrifying than before. Chapter 692. At this moment, Xing Luo's expression turned serious. He could feel that Qin Yu's azure dragon battle the heavens was much stronger than it was in his previous life. Could it be that Qin Yu had discovered the secret of the immemorial battle dragon art? Thinking of this, Xing Luo's eyes turned cold, and his murderous intent intensified. The secret of the immemorial battle dragon art was too big. If news of it spread to the heavenly region, the entire world would be shaken, and countless experts would flock to the heavenly region. This was also why Xing Luo didn't tell the Rakshasa Crown Prince about Qin Yu. Instead, he chose to imprison Ning Qianma and challenge Qin Yu to a duel. Dark Ghost Death Force. As these thoughts flashed through Xing Luo's mind, he immediately reacted. Facing Qin Yu, whose battle prowess had soared, Xing Luo didn't retreat at all. Instead, he charged forward again. The pitch-black ancient runes on his body crazily spread in all directions, covering his entire body in an instant. At a glance, Xing Luo's entire body was covered in a layer of strange black light. The layer of black light was filled with a bone-chilling power of death. It was as if anyone who came into contact with it would be dragged to hell and never be reincarnated. Rumble, rumble. Qin Yu, who had transformed into Shenron, clashed with Xing Luo, who was shrouded in black light. Several 100 feet tall, violent waves of destructive Tao swept out, causing the void to distort and distort. Everyone's vision became blurry. Qin Yu and Xing Luo, who had both used their killing moves, were in a deadlock in midair. Both of them had taken the brunt of each other's destructive attacks head-on. However, regardless of whether it was Qin Yu or Xing Luo, their bodies were extremely terrifying. Xing Luo had obtained Qin Yu's master's indestructible body, while Qin Yu had the dragon god tyrannical body, one of the 9 secrets of the battle dragon. Therefore, even though the two of them both displayed terrifying attacks, all kinds of world-destroying divine abilities bombarding continuously, the battle was frightening. However, the two of them did not suffer any fatal injuries. Long Hao and the primal chaos ancestor dragon, who were blocking the primordial profound corpse while watching Qin Yu and Xing Luo's battle, couldn't hide the shock in their eyes. If it were them, even if they didn't die after enduring so many terrifying attacks, they would have been seriously injured. Even the Dragon Soul was rather surprised by the strength of Star Luo's physical body. Fortune Immortal Seal, Star of Destiny. After exchanging blows with the Star Luo sect for a long time, Qin Yu's Stars of Destiny were consumed once again. It didn't take long for Qin Yu to see through the weakness of the indestructible body. Without the slightest hesitation, Qin Yu moved his mind. As he transformed into a divine dragon, specks of light emerged from the dragon's scales all over his body. Those specks of light gathered at the primal chaos dragon spear in Qin Yu's claw. A wave of destruction that could make one's soul leave their body surged. Forbidden immortal sacrifice technique? No, the forbidden art of sacrificial immortal isn't that strong. Xing Luo's pupils shrank slightly as she recognized that it was the Dark Sky Senzin's secret art, the immortal sacrifice art. Rumor had it that the Dark Sky Senzin had obtained this secret art from an ancient immortal's inheritance. It was a supreme immortal art that could slay immortals. Even though Xing Luo had cultivated the indestructible body, he still felt cold all over, as if he had fallen into an ice cave. Whether it was the Dark Sky Senzin or the battle in the graveyard of the immortal god, Xing Luo had personally experienced it. However, Qin Yu's immortal sacrifice art was so powerful that it made Xing Luo's hair stand on end. Without the slightest hesitation, Xing Luo formed a seal with both hands. Whoosh! Almost at the same time, Qin Yu, who had used the immortal sacrifice art, shot out a dazzling ray of light. The ray of light flashed and disappeared in the void. Heaven-earth wheel, Xing Luo shouted as a pitch-black vortex formed in front of him. The vortex spun wildly, emitting waves of energy that seemed to come from the boundless hell. Qin Yu's immortal sacrifice art was directly swallowed by the pitch-black vortex. From the looks of it, it was somewhat similar to Qin Yu's sky-devouring dragon seal. Break! Jiang Tianxin's eyes flashed coldly as he growled. A slight cracking sound came from the pitch-black vortex. In the next moment, the dazzling light of the immortal sacrifice art pierced through the pitch-black vortex. A bloody hole appeared in Xing Luo's heart. At the same time, an extremely terrifying destructive force radiated from the bloody hole. An extremely violent and destructive Dao art swept out like a tsunami, instantly filling Xing Luo's entire body. After Qin Yu saw the flaw, Xing Luo's indestructible body began to crumble inch by inch from the inside. It was unable to resist the destructive Dao art. Curse of death. Xing Luo's expression turned serious. Qin Yu's immortal sacrifice art was even more terrifying than he had expected. Xing Luo let out a low roar and unleashed his forbidden technique. An ancient rune that contained the power of death quietly appeared between Xing Luo's eyebrows. The ancient rune contained a Dao art that could destroy the world. It swept out and resisted the destructive force in his body. At this moment, Xing Luo's entire body was covered by the power of death. It was as if he had entered an indestructible state. His originally weak and chaotic aura rapidly surged at this moment. Qin Yu's eyes flashed. He could vaguely see a figure in Xing Luo's eyes. Xing Luo's aura became strange and unique again, just like when he was in the gloomy plains. Immortal extermination painting. Qin Yu's eyes flashed viciously when he saw that Xing Luo was still not suppressed. An ancient and mysterious giant painting appeared above Jiang Tianxin's head. As Jiang Tianxin pointed his finger, the immortal extermination ancient painting enveloped Xing Luo. The heaven extermination formation, God extermination formation, and immortal extermination formation within the immortal extermination ancient painting began to operate. An incomparably terrifying murderous intent swept out like a waterfall, completely enveloping Xing Luo. Xing Luo's flesh and blood were quickly annihilated by the murderous intent of the immortal extermination ancient painting. He's strengthening all his divine abilities and secret arts into the immortal extermination ancient painting. Xing Luo's expression changed drastically when he was trapped by the immortal extermination ancient painting. He had expected Qin Yu to not be able to withstand the murderous intent of the immortal extermination ancient painting even though he had cultivated the divine dragon body. He did not expect Qin Yu to not only unleash the full power of the immortal extermination ancient painting, but he also used all his divine abilities and secret arts to strengthen the immortal extermination ancient painting. Although Qin Yu's actions killed 1,000 enemies at the cost of 800 of his own men, it still put Xing Luo in danger. Kill! Qin Yu shouted. The dragon scales on his body glowed as he cast the immortal sacrificial art again. Oh no! Xing Luo's eyes narrowed as he tried to dodge. However, under the murderous intent of the immortal extermination ancient painting, Xing Luo's reaction was several beats slower. The immortal sacrificial art pierced through Xing Luo's forehead, and his sovereign soul was sealed by the immortal sacrificial art. Soul refining. Seeing that Xing Luo's physical body was suppressed by the immortal extermination ancient painting and his sovereign soul was sealed, Qin Yu immediately searched Xing Luo's soul. Xing Luo should know about his master's situation and whereabouts. However, at that moment, a dazzling, pitch-black light slashed down from the sky. The primordial Dao Law world that was formed from the fusion of the 10 primordial profound corpses Dao Law worlds was directly split open, and a figure appeared. Qin Yu looked at the person who had appeared. His eyes narrowed. It was the Luosha crown prince from the outer realm. Chapter 693. Collect. Qin Yu ordered when he saw the Luo Sha Crown Prince arrive. Xing Luo, who had been suppressed by the ancient immortal diagram, was sucked into the diagram. Whoosh! The Luo Sha Crown Prince was surprised to see Xing Luo suppressed. However, he didn't hesitate. He turned into a beam of light and shot out like a shooting star. He was clearly going to save Xing Luo. Roar! Qin Yu naturally wouldn't let him do as he wished. With a deafening dragon roar, he slashed out with his claw. Chaotic light flickered in the center of the dragon claw as the chaotic dragon spear shot out to meet the Luo Sha Crown Prince. As it flew out, the immortal execution diagram also returned to Qin Yu's body and disappeared. Rumble! The Luo Sha Crown Prince and Qin Yu clashed fiercely in the air. The Tao of Destruction swept out like a torrent, causing this Tao of Destruction world to completely collapse and scatter in all directions. After the collision, Qin Yu, who had transformed into a divine dragon, was blasted back several hundred feet. Only then did he disperse the frightening divine power on his body and stabilize his body. The Luo Sha Crown Prince's cultivation was much stronger than Xing Luo's. Moreover, Qin Yu clearly sensed that the Luo Sha Crown Prince was suppressing his cultivation for some reason, as if he didn't dare to use his full strength. Otherwise, Qin Yu wouldn't have just been lightly injured by that move. Now that Xing Luo was suppressed, the 10 primordial profound corpses seemed to have lost their ability to fight. They floated motionlessly in the air. Long Hun, Long Hao, the primal chaos ancestor dragon, and the ancestor demon statue took the opportunity to suppress the seal, then flew to Qin Yu's side. Foreign powerhouses! The expressions of Long Hun and the others turned grave when they sensed the terrifying pressure from the Luo Sha Crown Prince's body. They could feel that their power was being suppressed by the Luo Sha Crown Prince's might. It came from a stronger Tao technique. Hand over the ancient, immortal token, and I can spare your lives. The Luo Sha Crown Prince stood in the air with his hands behind his back, looking coldly at Qin Yu and the others. He didn't care about Star Luo's life at all. However, the strong immortal king token fluctuations from Qin Yu and Xing Luo surprised the Luo Sha Crown Prince. He had not expected that the immortal king tokens that he had been searching for so long would actually be with Qin Yu. This way, together with Xing Luo's immortal king token, they had 8 immortal king tokens. It was no wonder that Xing Luo had left him behind to face Qin Yu alone. Looks like ordinary methods won't be able to deal with him. After the dragon scales on Qin Yu's body glowed, he dispersed the 8 trigrams dragon transformation state and returned to his human form. Appear. Hearing Qin Yu's words, Long Hun and Long Hao each had an ancient disc in their hands. Of the 2 ancient plates, one was yin and the other was yang. When the 2 met, they formed a yin and yang totem. Qin Yu was at the center of the yin-yang totem, like the heart of the formation. Buzz, buzz, buzz. In the next instant, strands of unique fluctuations emanated from Qin Yu's body. The yin and yang totem started to vibrate. After the yin and yang light gathered, it attached itself to Qin Yu's body. This fluctuation is immortal qi. Could he be walking the path of an ancient immortal? The Luo Sha Crown Prince, who had been looking at Qin Yu and the others as though they were ants, suddenly froze. The Luo Sha Crown Prince had not expected Qin Yu, who had not even reached the 9th tier of the martial way, to have immortal qi fluctuations. This reminded the Luo Sha Crown Prince of the rumors of immortal cultivation that had been circulating in the 100 domains of Qian province for a long time. Whoosh! The Luo Sha Crown Prince reacted immediately and attacked. The Luo Sha Crown Prince's hands moved, and a gray current filled the air, blocking out the sun. It was the night darkness art that he had used on the blood demon before. Long Hao and the rest could clearly see that there were ancient gray runes floating within the gray airflow. They were like gray eyes that flickered with a strange light. The moment they saw the gray runes, Long Hao, Long Hun, and the others felt the world spin. It was as though their souls were being flipped upside down. Inside the yin-yang immortal formation, Qin Yu was not affected much by the night darkness art, as he was supported by immortal qi. Thus, Qin Yu immediately put Long Hun and the others into the ancient seal of the dragon god. Whoosh! At this moment, a sharp sound pierced through the air. A dazzling sword light shot through the air, accompanied by a vast wave of immortal qi. It was Sky Burier, Sword Immortal. With Sky Burier, Sword Immortal's arrival, the vast wave of immortal qi surged toward Qin Yu, making Qin Yu's aura even more terrifying and shocking. Both of them are immortal cultivators. The Luosha Crown Prince's eyes darkened when he saw that neither Qin Yu nor Sky Burier, Sword Immortal was affected by his night darkness art. Immortal cultivators were as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns, even in the Nether Realm and the entire Qian Prefecture. Every rising immortal cultivator was someone who could not be provoked. The Luosha Crown Prince hadn't expected that there would be two immortal cultivators in the Qian realm. Fortunately, neither Qin Yu nor Sky Burier, Sword Immortal had reached the 9th level of the martial path. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Where's Xingluo? Sky Burier, Sword Immortal looked at the Luosha Crown Prince and asked Qin Yu telepathically. I've already suppressed him. As Qin Yu spoke, he focused on the ancient seal of the dragon god and the 9 gods deity extermination painting. Qin Yu could control the immortal qi in the immortal god graveyard like Sky Burier, Sword Immortal, because the woman in white in the 9 gods deity extermination painting was using an ancient immortal secret technique. Qin Yu memorized the woman's seal and familiarized himself with the ancient immortal techniques. This person is very strong. Sky Burier, Sword Immortal's eyes fell on the Luosha Crown Prince again, and he said solemnly, even though he could control the immortal qi in the immortal god graveyard, his strength was enough to kill a late-stage ancient emperor easily. But Sky Burier, Sword Immortal, still felt a strong sense of danger from the Luosha Crown Prince. If he joined forces with Qin Yu, Sky Burier, Sword Immortal wouldn't be confident against the Luosha Crown Prince. He doesn't seem to dare to use his full strength. He must be wary of something. Qin Yu said telepathically. The entire Qian realm is filled with the Tao techniques, an immortal aura left behind by the warring dragon Immortal King. Anyone from outside the Qian realm will be suppressed. The stronger their cultivation, the worse the suppression. At this time, the woman in white spoke. Qin Yu's eyes lit up when he heard this. In that case, he might be able to kill the Luosha Crown Prince here today. If there was a chance to kill such a strong enemy, Qin Yu naturally wouldn't show mercy. I'll say it again. Hand over the Immortal King token. The Luosha Crown Prince glared coldly at Qin Yu and Sky Burier, Sword Immortal. Even though they were immortal cultivators, they were still 2 ants that hadn't crossed the 9th tier of the martial way. If not for the Qian realm suppression, the Luosha Crown Prince could easily crush Qin Yu and Sky Burier, Sword Immortal. If you want the Immortal King token, then exchange it with your life. Before he finished speaking, Qin Yu suddenly rushed forward, his spear stabbing out. A chaotic dragon shadow from the dragon's spear tore through the air, bearing its fangs and claws. It covered the Luosha Crown Prince completely. Pust! Sky Burier, Sword Immortal also attacked immediately. A 10,000 zhang long, pitch-black ancient sword with rolling immortal aura tore through the dusky sky and came crashing down. The immortal aura in this sword seemed to bring down the entire sky. Chapter 694. You're courting death. Murderous intent surged in the Rakshasa Crown Prince's eyes. Gray mist rose from his body, and his horrifying Tao technique almost materialized, exuding horrifying murderous intent. But at this moment, the Rakshasa Crown Prince seemed to have sensed something. He immediately teleported and dodged the attacks from Qin Yu and Sky Burier, Sword Immortal. The Rakshasa Crown Prince tilted his head and looked at the void on the right with uncertainty in his eyes. It seems that someone is hiding in the dark. The white-clothed woman in the dragon god ancient seal spoke. With the immortal Qi in the immortal god graveyard, the white-clothed woman's senses had reached an astonishing level. There's this presence. Hearing her words, Qin Yu immediately sensed it carefully. After a while, he really did sense a special aura. Moreover, that aura was somewhat familiar to him. It was the presence of the blood demon from the blood demon continent of the spiritual state. He's really haunting me. Sensing the blood demon hiding in the dark, the Rakshasa Crown Prince's murderous intent surged in his eyes. But after a moment of consideration, the Rakshasa Crown Prince glanced at Qin Yu and Sky Burier, Sword Immortal, with a grim expression and vanished in the void in a flash. That person hiding in the dark also left. Meanwhile, the white-clothed woman and Qin Yu also sensed the disappearance of the blood demon's presence. He probably knew that his whereabouts were exposed and had left. He left just like that. Seeing the Rakshasa Crown Prince disappear, Sky Burier Sword Immortal was surprised. Sky Burier Sword Immortal didn't believe that the Rakshasa Crown Prince was afraid of them. But the Rakshasa Crown Prince had left so quickly that it didn't seem like he was setting up a trap. Why? He's already left. The blue dragon scales on Qin Yu's body quietly disappeared, and the Azure Dragon battle was withdrawn. However, pure dragon essence surged in his body and healed his injuries. When he suppressed Xingluo, Qin Yu had used the entire immortal slaying ancient diagram. Although he had successfully suppressed Xingluo, Qin Yu's physical body had also been severely damaged. Hearing Qin Yu's words, Sky Burier Sword Immortal was relieved. He immediately refined the majestic immortal Qi with all his strength and constantly increased his cultivation. While using the dragon Qi to heal, Qin Yu released the dragon soul and Long Hao from the divine dragon ancient seal. His own divine soul entered the ancient seal of the dragon god. You can't kill me. Within the divine dragon seal, Star Luo was being suppressed by the immortal extermination ancient diagram, constantly suffering from the destructive killing intent. However, in the depths of his eyes, there was a mysterious Taoist art gushing out from the looming human figure, which was constantly healing his body's sovereign spirit. His astonishing recovery ability was even more frightening than the mysterious immortal body's might. It was no wonder that Star Luo was so confident that Qin Yu wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Is that so? Qin Yu sneered. A shocking dragon roar resounded as the immemorial battle dragon art was activated. Xing Luo's body trembled, and his expression changed drastically. He could feel the berserk dragon bloodline in his body suddenly going berserk. The feeling of the berserk dragon bloodline going against the flow made the looming human figure in the depths of Xing Luo's eyes feel like it was about to collapse. The ancient battle dragon art could forcefully control Xing Luo's berserk dragon bloodline. Qin Yu had already suspected it when he was ambushed in the graveyard of the immortal god in his previous life. Now, this point had been proven. As expected, you have already seen through some of the secrets of the ancient battle dragon art. Xing Luo, whose body was gradually collapsing, was in a desperate situation. His expression gradually calmed down. That kind of calmness was the calmness of someone who had completely given up on resisting. It was obvious that Xing Luo had accepted his fate of being defeated by Qin Yu. However, Xing Luo didn't despair at all. This was because this body wasn't his original body. It was just a body that he had created to adapt to the Sky Domain Taoist art. There are restrictions and seals in my soul. Your soul refining art is useless against me. However, I can tell you where your master is. Xing Luo didn't care when he saw Qin Yu using the soul-searching technique on him. Why would you be so kind? After seeing that the Soul Dao secret art was indeed useless against Xing Luo, Qin Yu fell into deep thought. Even if Xing Luo told him where his master was, Qin Yu would find it hard to believe. If possible, he would have to use the Soul Dao secret art to personally search for his master. Thinking up to this point, Qin Yu began to consume his stars of providence in an attempt to find the flaw in the seal on Xing Luo's soul. Sizzle. Sizzle. However, At this moment, Xing Luo's body was covered in pitch-black flames that burned fiercely and covered his entire body. The pitch-black flames contained extremely dense and terrifying power of death. Seeing this, Qin Yu immediately used a soul Dao secret art to isolate and seal Xing Luo. Even Qin Yu didn't want to come into contact with the power of the flames. Your master is imprisoned in the mystic domain. If you want to save him, you'd better leave the heaven domain as soon as possible. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that you'll be able to see him alive. A strange smile appeared on Xing Luo's face. Although he had failed in the heaven domain, he hadn't completely lost his chance. As long as the immortal King Zhanlong's inheritance fell into Qin Yu's hands, he would still have a bargaining chip to make Qin Yu go find him. At that time, it would be hard to say who would emerge victorious. As soon as he finished speaking, Xing Luo was completely annihilated by the black flames. Only a cloud of black mist remained in the void. Do you know where the mystic domain is? Qin Yu carefully sensed. After confirming that there was nothing left of Xing Luo, he dispersed the black light seal. His second senior sister, Ning Qianma, had appeared from the black hole. The mystic domain? It seems to be somewhere in the Li province. The white-clad lady pondered for a long time before speaking with uncertainty. The Li province? Qin Yu already knew quite a lot of information about the outside of the heaven domain when he was suppressing the azure ice beast. Outside the heaven domain was the martial domain. Or rather, the heaven domain was just one of the martial domains. There were more than 10,000 martial domains in the heaven domain, and each one was as large as the 9 provinces of the heaven domain plus the territories of the demons outside. The heaven domain was further divided into 8 regions, named after the 8 trigrams of the universe. They were collectively known as the 8 great continents. Of course, Qin Yu only had a rough idea. He didn't know the specifics of the mystic domain in the Li province. That person's cultivation base is at least in the Sky Sage realm. If you're planning to go to the mystic domain, you'd better not be careless. The white-clad lady said. Sky Sage realm. Qin Yu narrowed his eyes. After the 9 realms of martial Dao was the 9 realms of heavenly Dao. The 9 realms of heavenly Dao were divided into the origin realm, celestial wheel realm, calamity realm, celestial sovereign realm, sky sage realm, celestial divine realm, heavenly void realm, heavenly palace realm, and ingress realm. For Qin Yu, who was still at the peak of the 9th level of the martial Dao, the ancient emperor realm, a sky sage realm existence was something he had to look up to. If Qin Yu went to the mystic domain now, only death would await him. No wonder his master hadn't been able to escape from Xing Luo. After thinking for a while, Qin Yu threw these messy thoughts to the back of his mind for the time being. For Qin Yu, the most important thing right now was to enter the treasury and unlock the treasures left behind by immortal King Zhanlong. Whether it was Xing Luo, the Luosha Crown Prince, or the Blood Demon, they'd all come for immortal King Zhanlong's heritage. Naturally, Qin Yu wouldn't give up the heritage of an immortal king to others. Chapter 695. After the Sky Burier, Sword Immortal, and the white-robed girl finished refining the immortal Qi in the graveyard of the immortal god, Qin Yu did not linger, heading straight for the immortal trove. Like the graveyard of the immortal god, the immortal trove was not in the 9 provinces. It was in a void between the divine continent and the demon continent. Without special means, one would not be able to find the entrance to the immortal trove even if they reached it. After Qin Yu and the others left, 2 figures appeared in the void above the graveyard of the immortal god, facing each other. They were the Rakshasa Crown Prince and the Blood Demon, who had left previously. Who would have thought that you would betray the Blood Ancestor and risk being hunted by the entire Blood Domain to steal the Immortal King token? You would actually give it away so easily. The Rakshasa Crown Prince stared at the Blood Demon sinisterly. If not for the fact that he had sensed the Blood Demon hiding in the dark, he would not have allowed the Blood Demon to reap the benefits. How could he have let Qin Yu leave with the Immortal King token so easily? Do you think you can snatch the Immortal King token from them when their cultivation levels are suppressed and they can control immortal chi. The blood demon's eyes darkened. He had given the immortal king token to Qin Yu because he wanted to possess Qin Yu and break free from the suppression of the blood demon continent. In the end, after the immortal king token was given to Qin Yu, he had lost connection with it. Even the restrictions he had left in the immortal king token had dissipated when the seal was broken. This had completely ruined the blood demon's plan. If not for his doppelganger being sent over, his doppelganger would have died on the blood demon continent. Hearing the blood demon's words, the Rakshasa crown prince narrowed his eyes. He had thought that the blood demon was the mastermind behind Qin Yu, just like how he had hidden behind the star Luo to enter the immortal trove. That was why the Rakshasa crown prince wanted to sow discord between the blood demon and Qin Yu. But now, from the blood demon's words, the situation seemed to be a little different from what he had imagined. Now that we have gathered all 8 ancient immortal badges, it seems like that kid will surely open the immortal treasure. If we continue to fight like this, we will end up with nothing. Blood Demon didn't care what the Rakshasa Crown Prince was thinking. So, the Rakshasa Crown Prince could vaguely guess Bloodseeker's intentions. How about joining forces? Judging from the fluctuations just now, there was likely the soul of a true ancient immortal in that kid's body. The immortal vault is filled with the aura of the heaven-battling immortal emperor. Once he gains control of the immortal force left behind by the heaven-battling immortal emperor, the immortal vault will fall into his hands. To be honest, the blood demon wanted nothing more than to kill the Rakshasa Crown Prince who had chased him all the way and ruined his cultivation time and time again. However, given the current situation, if they didn't join hands, they would definitely be defeated. If that was the case, his scheme to steal the Immortal King token and sneak into the Heaven Domain as an independent cultivator would all be for naught. That's a good suggestion, the Rakshasa Crown Prince pondered. He was aware of the presence of the ancient immortal from Qin Yu's body. If he joined forces with the Blood Demon, their chances of success would indeed be much higher. Of course, after they succeeded, there would definitely be a battle between him and the Blood Demon. However, he couldn't be bothered with that now. Immediately, the Rakshasa Crown Prince and the Blood Demon, who had been at loggerheads, joined forces and sped towards the Immortal Vault. To the martial artists of the 9 provinces in the Heaven Domain, the Immortal Vault was an extremely mysterious place. In fact, many ancient emperors didn't even know the exact location of the Immortal Vault. However, the Rakshasa Crown Prince and the Blood Demon knew. They had explored the Immortal Vault more than once. However, without an Immortal King token, they couldn't break the Immortal King Spirit barrier. 5 days later, whoosh, 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 four figures sped through the air and stopped in a void. In this area, the sun, moon, and stars couldn't be seen. Mountains and rivers couldn't be seen. It was like a boundary between reality and illusion. Open. After arriving, Qin Yu's hands moved rapidly, sending hand seals into the void. In an instant, the void trembled. Ancient and mysterious immortal marks appeared silently, forming a huge, ancient bronze door that spanned 10,000 jong. A vast and terrifying immortal aura swept over them like a wave. Although this wasn't the first time they had felt such terrifying immortal aura, Qin Yu and the Sky Burier, Sword Immortal, were still shaken to the core. The Dragon Soul and Long Hao, who were here for the first time, felt as insignificant as ants. They couldn't help but want to kneel and worship. Go in, Qin Yu said, and flew into the huge, ancient bronze door. The Sky Burier, Sword Immortal, the Dragon Soul, and Long Hao followed closely behind. The moment they passed through the door of light, Qin Yu and the others felt time flow, and they appeared in an ancient palace. The palace was 10,000 jong wide and made of translucent immortal stones. The immortal chi was so strong that it made one's heart tremble. However, the Sky Burier Sword Immortal, who walked the path of immortal cultivation, didn't look happy at all. He could clearly feel the terrifying immortal aura contained in the immortal stones. Once it was triggered, he would be completely destroyed in an instant. There were many passages in the immortal stone palace. Each passage was dark and deep, and the aura they emitted was completely different, as if they led to different worlds. Qin took out the 8 ancient immortal tokens. After sensing them, he walked toward one of the passages. Each passage in the immortal stone palace contained a different inheritance. However, there was only one way to enter the real immortal treasure. If they took the wrong path, they would receive the inheritance of the other passages. They wouldn't be able to enter the real immortal treasure. Back then, Qin and the others had endured great temptation to enter the immortal treasure and obtain the primordial battle dragon art and other heaven-defying techniques. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Not long after Qin and the others entered the passage, the immortal stone palace trembled slightly. 2 more figures appeared out of nowhere. They were the Luosha Crown Prince and Blood Demon, who had followed them all the way here. The Luosha Crown Prince took out a mysterious compass. After probing for a long time, he also entered the passage Qin and the others chose. At this time, Qin and the others appeared on an 8 trigrams altar. There were 7 more altars around the 8 trigrams altar. The 8 altars were also arranged in an 8 trigrams formation. Qin couldn't hide the excitement in his eyes. These 8 trigrams altars were the passages to the immortal treasure. However, they could only truly enter the immortal treasure after breaking the seals of the 8 trigrams altars. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Qin didn't hesitate. He immediately took out the 8 ancient immortal tokens. With a soft tremble, the 8 ancient immortal tokens flickered with immortal runes. They floated up and landed on the altars. Pillars of light shot into the sky from the 8 altars. The 8 trigrams intertwined in the air, forming an ancient light formation. At the center of the light formation, a beam of immortal light fell and enveloped Qin and the others. With a flash of light, Qin and the others appeared in the vast starry sky. There were countless stars in the sky. Some were dim, while others were shining brightly. Of course, the most eye-catching thing was naturally the 30 kilometers tall celestial figure in the starry sky that had all the stars revolving around it. Chapter 696. Immortal King Zhanlong. The 9 gods' deity extermination painting emerged from the ancient seal of the dragon god after Qin and the others entered the vast starry sky. The illusionary figure of the woman in white appeared from the ancient painting and looked at the immortal figure excitedly. Is that the immortal King Zhanlong? Qin raised his head and looked at the 10,000 zhang tall celestial figure surrounded by stars. His eyes were filled with shock. Qin had seen ancient immortals, gods, and experts from other realms with his own eyes. However, they were as tiny as ants before the immortal figure of the immortal King Zhanlong. At this moment, Qin felt like he was facing the creator of all things. At the same time, Qin also felt the immemorial battle dragon art circulating uncontrollably on its own. Waves of dragon cries were heard. It felt like the immemorial battle dragon art was about to transform into a dragon and fly out of his body. The transformation of the immemorial battle dragon art was so obvious that even the dragon soul, Long Hao, Sky Burier, Sword Immortal, and the woman in white could clearly sense it. It's really him. The woman in white's eyes flickered when she sensed the strange energy ripples from Qin. Sky Burier, Sword Immortal squinted with astonishment in his eyes. The energy ripples from Qin were vaguely resonating with the immortal treasury. It was obvious that Qin was related to the immortal treasury in some way. It's finally here. At this moment, an ethereal voice that sounded like it came from the primordial times appeared. Following it, the stars in the starry sky began to glow. A beam of light appeared in each star and connected with each other, forming a huge net of light that covered the sky. At the center of the net of light was the immortal figure that was 10,000 feet tall. The immortal figure whose immortal aura had obscured his appearance gradually revealed his true appearance. It was a middle-aged man with an imposing aura. When he opened his eyes, thousands of stars were floating in his eyes, as if billions of worlds were being born and destroyed. The entire immortal treasury shook violently, and a terrifying pressure that seemed material descended, suppressing all living beings. Immortal King Zhanlong is still alive. When she saw the middle-aged man's face, the woman in white trembled violently. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. As for Zhangtian's sword immortal, Long Hun, and Long Hao, they felt their bodies being suppressed by the supreme divine might. They were unable to move at all. Only Qin Yu, who was circulating the primordial combat dragon art in his body, was not affected by the pressure. Qin Yu raised his head and looked directly at immortal King Zhanlong. Earlier, the battle dragon celestial king had said, "It's finally here." Whoosh! Immortal King Zhanlong waved his sleeve, and an immortal wave swept over. Before Qin Yu could react, he had already appeared on a huge star. Qin Yu looked down and found that Sword Immortal Zhangtian and the others had all become small black dots. After pondering for a moment, Qin Yu understood. He had already entered Immortal King Zhanlong's celestial shadow. Qin Yu turned around and observed his surroundings. Suddenly, Qin Yu's eyes glittered. Not far behind him, a figure was floating quietly. They were only a few feet apart, yet Qin Yu did not notice the person's presence. An immortal king, Qin Yu said. His tone was somewhat uncertain. Even though the person in front of him had the same appearance as the enormous celestial shadow, his aura and demeanor were completely different. The enormous celestial shadow had a terrifying immortal aura that could shake the 9 heavens and 10 lands. However, the person in front of him was lethargic, like an old man who had reached the end of his life. If you still didn't show up, my old bones are going to dissipate completely. That battle dragon immortal king, with a dignified appearance, displayed a smile on his face. He walked over to Qin Yu. "You've been waiting for me?" Qin Yu's eyes flickered. As he thought, immortal King Zhanlong had said, "It's finally here." As for the reason, it might have something to do with the ancient battle dragon art. Of course, you're the next successor of the immortal art that I've chosen. You should have come here 1,000 years ago, but something happened to you. Immortal King Zhanlong moved his finger. The ancient battle dragon art flew out of Qin Yu's body and landed in his hand. The thing that immortal King Zhanlong mentioned was obviously the battle in the graveyard of the immortal god. So you're saying that I was able to reincarnate even after my soul dissipated because you saved me? Qin Yu's eyes glittered. He finally found the answer to the question that had been bothering him for many years. No, even though I'm the one who created the rules of the heaven realm, I can't interfere with the reincarnation of living beings with my remaining power. Besides, when you were in trouble, I was still in a deep sleep. When I woke up, your soul had already dissipated. Immortal King Zhanlong said. Then, why was I able to reincarnate? Qin Yu was startled. He initially thought it was immortal King Zhanlong who had saved him. However, it seemed like his reincarnation was not as simple as it seemed. I've created the ancient battle dragon art myself. As long as I keep devouring the blood of dragons, my cultivation will continue to improve. However, you have been stuck at the peak of the 9th layer of the martial path. Do you know why? Immortal King Zhanlong asked in return. Immortal King, please enlighten me. Hearing that, Qin Yu came back to his senses with a start and promptly said respectfully. After his reincarnation and his cultivation had reached the ancient emperor realm, the hindrance of the ancient battle dragon art had grown stronger. Qin Yu knew that if he could not solve the problem, he would have to switch to another art. Otherwise, even if he knew the cultivation method of the 9th layer of the martial path, he would still be stuck at the 9th layer of the martial path. However, Qin Yu was not willing to switch to another art so easily, considering how outstanding the ancient battle dragon art was. To achieve the 9th layer of the heavenly path, your soul must be baptized by the heavenly path. If you can't endure it, you will die. The reason why you can't reach the 9th layer of the heavenly path is because you only have a soul. Immortal King Zhanlong said. A soul. Qin Yu was stunned. He did not know how to react. Everyone knew that humans had 3 spiritual souls and 7 physical souls. In fact, in the 9th layer of the martial path, when one achieved the martial dominator realm, their soul would be awakened. In the martial highness realm, they would be able to use their soul force. If Qin Yu only had a single soul, then how could he have reached the ancient emperor realm? I don't know the reason, but it's true that you only have a soul. Immortal King Zhanlong moved his finger again. A light screen appeared in front of Qin Yu. On the light screen, Qin Yu, heaven-bearing sword immortal, Long Hao, the woman in a white outfit, and the others were clearly shown. Qin Yu's eyes glittered after taking a glance. Heaven-bearing sword immortal and Long Hao both had 3 spiritual souls. Even the dragon soul and the woman in a white outfit had 3 spiritual souls and 7 physical souls. Only Qin Yu only had a soul. What's going on? Qin Yu frowned. He had thought of many reasons why he could not break through the limit of the ancient emperor realm, but he never thought he would only have a soul. After all, if a person did not have 3 spiritual souls, even if they did not die, they would become retarded. However, Qin Yu did not feel anything. Chapter 697. Immortal Emperor, you should know why I was able to reincarnate even after my soul was destroyed, right? Qin Yu frowned and looked at Immortal Emperor Zhanlong after pondering for some time. Even though Immortal Emperor Zhanlong had mentioned that he only had 1 soul, judging from Immortal Emperor Zhanlong's reaction, he should know the reason. When I woke up and saw that your soul was gone, I was going to retrieve the ancient battle dragon art and look for another successor. However, at that time, a mysterious power descended from the outer realms and gathered the soul power that had originally dissipated between heaven and earth, allowing you to enter the cycle of reincarnation. Immortal Emperor Zhanlong nodded. A mysterious force? Is that force able to ignore the rules of the Heaven Domain Tao? Qin Yu was astounded. Before coming to the Immortal Vault, the woman in a white outfit mentioned that the 9 continents of the Heaven Domain and the demons of the Outer Realm were shrouded by Immortal Emperor Zhanlong's laws. Therefore, any cultivator from the Outer Realm will be suppressed by the Immortal Emperor Zhanlong's laws. Just what kind of cultivation was needed to gather his scattered soul force under that kind of situation and send it back into the cycle of reincarnation? If I was at my peak, the mysterious force wouldn't be able to infiltrate my body. However, 90% of my power has dissipated. Anyone who has surpassed the 9th layer of the Heaven Tao can resist my laws. Of course, the mysterious force isn't to be underestimated either. It has most likely touched the immortal Tao. Most importantly, the soul energy of the mysterious force is vaguely connected to your soul. Immortal Emperor Zhanlong said. Vaguely connected. Qin Yu could not help but feel a chill running down his spine. He recalled Xing Luo, whom he had killed. Xing Luo was from the Outer Realm. The body he cultivated could also be considered clone. Was he like Xing Luo? Was he a soul split from someone? However, after this thought appeared in Qin Yu's mind, he felt that it was unlikely. After all, Xing Luo was well aware that his physical body had been nurtured, and his soul was still one with his true body. However, Qin Yu's soul and will had always been independent. An external force had never interfered with his thoughts. Of course, Qin Yu's current martial cultivation was not very strong. Perhaps there really was some secret art at the 9th level of the heavenly Tao, or even higher, that could interfere with or even control his soul without him noticing. Don't worry, there are no restrictions or spirit formations controlling your soul. If that wasn't the case, I wouldn't have chosen you as my successor back then. The Battle Dragon Immortal Emperor said, as if he knew what Qin Yu was thinking. Qin Yu heard this, and the uneasiness in his heart was slightly suppressed. Considering the Battle Dragon Immortal Emperor's cultivation, there should not be any problem if he said so. Wait! Suddenly, Qin Yu's body trembled, and his expression froze. Back in the Heaven Region's western continent, when he had met the Heaven-Burying Sword Immortal in the Immortal Ancient Ruins, the Heaven-Burying Sword Immortal had said that he had met someone who looked exactly like him. Could that person be the person whom the Battle Dragon Celestial King had mentioned, the person who had condensed his soul. However, you still need to condense 3 souls. When you reach the 9th level of the heavenly Tao, your soul will need to be baptized by the power of the heavenly Tao. Similarly, when you cross the 9th level of the heavenly Tao and enter the immortal Tao, your soul will also be baptized. Now, I can use the art of fake soul to help you condense 2 souls and reach the 9th level of the heavenly Tao, but I'm afraid the fake soul won't be able to withstand the immortal tribulation in the future. The battle dragon Immortal Emperor added, Immortal Emperor, if I'm one of the 3 souls, is there a way to sense the existence of the other 2 souls? Hearing that, Qin Yu pondered for a while and then slowly opened his mouth. Since the immortal Tao required the baptism of 3 souls, it meant that Qin Yu could be devoured by the other 2 souls at any time, especially the person who had appeared in the heaven region who looked exactly like him in his past life. That person was very likely one of the 3 souls, or perhaps he had already condensed 2 souls. The soul summoning art is a secret art that aids the cultivation of the soul Tao. It can summon remnant souls that are traveling in the world. If you're really one of the souls, then if you cultivate the soul summoning art to the peak, you should be able to sense the existence of the other 2 souls. The battle dragon Immortal Emperor said after thinking for a moment. The soul summoning art? Qin Yu's eyes flashed. As long as he cultivated the soul summoning art, he would be able to confirm if he was really one of the souls. Whoosh! Whoosh! The battle dragon Immortal Emperor flicked his finger and beams of immortal light entered Qin Yu's body. Through the light mirror, one could clearly see that 2 more strands of soul power had rapidly appeared within Qin Yu's body. However, compared to the perfect fusion of the 3 souls of Zhongtian's Sword Immortal and the others, Qin Yu had condensed 2 fake souls. However, the 2 fake souls were still unable to fuse with Qin Yu's soul. The 2 fake souls even firmly guarded Qin Yu's soul. From its appearance, it appeared as if it was protecting Qin Yu's soul. In addition to condensing the 2 fake souls, Qin Yu also had the cultivation method of the soul summoning art in his mind. Thank you for the technique, Immortal Emperor. After closing his eyes and adapting to the 2 fake souls, Qin Yu solemnly thanked the battle dragon Immortal Emperor. The battle dragon Immortal Emperor's action could be said to be a great favor to Qin Yu. Otherwise, he would probably never be able to reach the 9th level of the heavenly Tao in this lifetime. However, Qin Yu's kneeling body was held back by an invisible force. I've waited for countless years, and my lifespan has reached the end. If I can't find a successor, everything I've learned in my life will disappear with me, and your arrival can allow me to pass on my legacy. To a certain extent, you can be considered to have fulfilled my wish. That war dragon Immortal King, who had a smile on his face, acted and stopped Qin Yu's kneeling. After saying that, the battle dragon Immortal Emperor waved his right hand. An ancient disc appeared in his hand. There were 10 pits on the ancient disc, 9 around it, and 1 in the center. After the ancient spirit disc appeared, the ancient battle dragon art flew into the center of the pit. The 2 merged perfectly. Strands of pure energy emanated from the immemorial battle dragon incantation and seeped into the 9 pits. Immediately, dragon roars faintly resounded from the 9 pits, and numerous dragon markings filled the air. Such a terrifying presence of the dragon tribe. Qin Yu could not help but feel a chill down his spine when he sensed the presence of the dragon runes in the 9 pits. The presence of the dragon runes was even stronger than the immortal ancient Shunran that Qin Yu had seen in the past. Since you've cultivated the immemorial battle dragon art, you should know that there are 9 secret arts in the immemorial battle dragon art, right? The battle dragon Immortal Emperor's figure became a lot more illusionary after the ancient disc appeared. His life force weakened even further. I've now mastered the heaven-battling Azure Dragon, the sky-devouring dragon seal, the divine dragon body, and the 8 trigrams battle dragon art, Qin Yu said with a nod. As a matter of fact, the 9 secret arts of the immemorial battle dragon art are the supreme mystical arts of the dragon tribe that I refined by subduing the 9 primordial ancestral dragons. The battle dragon immortal emperor said. Chapter 698. The 9 Origin Ancestral Dragons. Qin Yu was taken aback. He had only heard of the Chaos Ancestral Dragons. However, given immortal King Zhanlong's cultivation, the Ancestral Dragons he had subdued would not be on the same level as the Chaos Ancestral Dragons. Moreover, immortal King Zhanlong was talking about the Origin Ancestral Dragons. What was the origin? The origin was the one and only in the world. Although the Chaos Ancestral Dragons were called Ancestral Dragons, there had been more than one in the history of the realm. Unfortunately, the Eternal Immortal Empire was struck by a dark upheaval. The Immortal Kings were the first to suffer. I was severely injured in that battle and had no choice but to seal the realm and hide here to recuperate. The 9 Origin Ancestral Dragons took advantage of my weakness to break the seal and escape. Otherwise, I would have merged the 9 Origin Ancestral Dragons into one and entered the legendary realm. Immortal King Zhan Long sighed softly. He was born at the wrong time. The Eternal Immortal Empire? Dark upheaval? The Immortal Kings? Qin Yu had never heard of any of the words spoken by Immortal King Zhanlong. To him, these words were like new and mysterious worlds. However, the War Dragon Coil is an immortal treasure refined from the bones of the 9 Origin Ancestral Dragons. With the War Dragon Coil, you will be able to sense where the 9 Origin Ancestral Dragons are. Immortal King Zhanlong handed the War Dragon Coil to Qin Yu. Whoosh! As soon as Qin Yu touched it, the War Dragon Coil turned into a beam of light and entered his soul. Qin Yu was able to clearly sense that the War Dragon Coil had appeared in his soul. At the same time, the many things he didn't understand about the primordial War Dragon art became clear. The dark upheaval will come again. I hope you can enter the legendary realm before then. Immortal King Zhanlong's ethereal voice rang out. The stars in the sky flickered with dazzling light. The next moment, beams of immortal light that contained supreme inheritances all gathered on Qin Yu's body. When he passed on his mantle to Qin Yu, Immortal King Zhanlong's ethereal body grew more and more transparent. In the end, he turned into light and dissipated before Qin Yu's eyes. That is, Qin Yu is accepting the inheritance? As I thought, he's related to the battle dragon immortal emperor. At this moment, the dragon's soul outside the towering celestial shadow, the sky burier, sword immortal, the white-clothed woman, and Long Hao were all present. Through the eyes of the celestial shadow, he saw Qin Yu receiving the inheritance. When Long Hun and Long Hao saw this scene, their expressions became wild with joy. It was rumored that the immortal trove contained the inheritance of an ancient immortal. It was obvious that Qin Yu had obtained the legacy of an ancient immortal. This naturally made the two of them happy. As for the sky burier, sword immortal, and the white-clothed woman, their expressions were different. Sky Burier, Sword Immortal, had received an immortal power inheritance before, so he knew that what Qin Yu was inheriting now was definitely not an ordinary ancient immortal inheritance. The woman in white knew that the immortal treasury was created by the War Dragon Immortal King. The inheritance of a supreme immortal king was taken away right in front of her eyes. This caused the white-clothed woman to reveal a complicated expression. If it weren't for the fact that her immortal body was destroyed and her immortal soul still needed to rely on the 9 gods deity extermination painting, she would have charged out long ago. Under the gazes of the dragon's soul and the others, the towering celestial shadow shrank at a visible speed. It appeared as if that immortal silhouette was being devoured by Qin Yu unceasingly. Rumble. About half an hour later, a deafening explosion rang out. Huge spiderweb-like cracks began to appear in the sky. The cracks exploded, and 2 figures with terrifying auras and murderous auras appeared. They were the Luosha Crown Prince and the Blood Demon, who'd followed them all the way here. They'd been able to follow Qin Yu and the others all the way with their secret techniques. Unfortunately, the Luosha Crown Prince and the Blood Demon were no longer able to follow Qin Yu and the others after they entered the Immortal King's inheritance star. Judging from the Crown Prince and the Blood Demon's weak and chaotic auras, they knew that they were in great danger. Has the inheritance begun? The Rakshasa son of Heaven and Blood Devil immediately saw Qin Yu, who was receiving the inheritance. Their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. They had done everything they could to sneak into the Heaven region, even risking their lives. Unexpectedly, the battling dragon Immortal King's inheritance had been taken by someone else first. It was especially so for the Blood Demon. The Immortal King token on Qin Yu had been personally given to Qin Yu by him. He'd wanted to use Qin Yu to collect all 8 Immortal King tokens and then reap the benefits. In the end, he was the one who'd ended up with nothing. Luosha Skydance. Without hesitation, the Luosha Crown Prince used a forbidden technique of the Luosha tribe. Streaks of mysterious gray shadows exploded from the Luosha Crown Prince's body, rushing towards the celestial shadow where Qin Yu was. Each of the gray shadows exuded an aura that wasn't any weaker than a late ancient Emperor realm existence. Their aura was enough to make one's heart tremble. Not good. Long Hao's eyes narrowed. The ancient sword on his back flew out of its scabbard, turning into sword light. He leapt in front of the huge, celestial shadow and slashed. Instantly, countless streaks of dazzling sword light shot out, blocking all the gray shadows. Gotcha! However, waves of unceasing cracking sound appeared. It was Long Hao's sword glow that continuously collapsed and dissipated when it came into contact with those gray figures. Long Hao was hit by the gray shadows, and he was sent flying, spitting out blood. His aura was visibly weakened. If not for the Dragon Soul space-time power affecting space-time at the critical moment, Long Hao would not have ended up just spitting out blood. How did his cultivation become so strong? The Sky Burier, Sword Immortal, who had followed closely behind the Dragon Soul and destroyed the gray shadows with his terrifying immortal chi, looked at the Luosha Crown Prince in shock. Compared to when he was in the graveyard of the Immortal God, the Luosha Crown Prince's cultivation had undergone a drastic change. If the Sky Burier, Sword Immortal, had not refined the majestic immortal chi of the graveyard of the Immortal God, he would not have fared any better than Long Hao. Blood Tyrant of the Nine Heavens. The Blood Demon also attacked when he saw the Luosha Crown Prince being blocked by the Dragon Soul's trio. As the Blood Demon's hands formed a series of hand seals, a bloody mist that blotted out the sun surged and covered most of the sky. A ferocious demon god was condensed within the terrifying bloody mist, and it descended with a vast might. Stop! The woman in white raised an eyebrow and chose to attack. After all, she had a contract with Qin Yu. It was better for the Immortal King's inheritance to fall into Qin Yu's hands than for the Luosha Crown Prince and the Blood Demon to take it. The woman in white waved her sleeve, and 9 majestic gods appeared from the 9 gods' deity extermination, painting and charged toward the horrifying Blood Demon. The woman in white's true form pounced at the Blood Demon with an ethereal aura. An ancient immortal, the Blood Demon sized up the woman in white with shock in his eyes. He had infiltrated the heavenly region for so many years, but he hadn't expected there to be an ancient immortal from the Immortal King era. Chapter 699. Rumble. The 9 gods and the terrifying Blood Demon started a bloody battle. Terrifying divine power and bloody mist clashed in the void. The white-clothed woman and Blood Demon also clashed, unleashing killing moves that shook the starry sky. Bam! After another fierce clash, the white-clothed woman and Blood Demon both retreated hundreds of meters in the air. They faced each other from a distance, their killing intent extremely dense. However, the white-clothed woman's eyes flashed with a strange expression. On the other hand, the bloody mist on Blood Demon's body grew thicker and more violent, his aura soaring. Is Immortal King Zhanlong's immortal law gradually disappearing? The white-clothed woman secretly used a secret technique. After sensing carefully, a strange light flashed in her eyes. Previously, when she fought with the blood demon, she felt that the blood demon's cultivation was constantly increasing. Now, she finally understood the reason. On the Luosha Crown Prince's side, Long Hun, Long Hao, and Sky Burier Sword Immortal worked together, but they could barely block his attacks. From the looks of the battle, the three of them didn't have the advantage in numbers. In fact, they were gradually being suppressed by the Luosha Crown Prince. Left with no choice, Long Hun summoned the ancestor demon statue that Qin Yu had given him. The four of them worked together to stop the Luosha Crown Prince. It seems that you've also noticed that the Immortal King's immortal law is disappearing. Soon, all the experts in the universe will sense Immortal King Zhanlong's aura and flock to the heavenly region. If both of us are injured, then we won't be able to obtain anything. Conversely, if we join forces and obtain the Immortal King's inheritance, then you might be able to be reborn in the future and even step foot into the ancient immortal realm once more. Blood Demon glanced at the shrinking immortal figure and couldn't help but say to the white-clothed woman. Although the white-clothed woman was only a soul now, she had once become an ancient immortal after all. Her secret techniques made Blood Demon extremely wary. Therefore, Blood Sacrifice wanted to rope her in. Now that the Luosha Crown Prince was busy, it was the best opportunity for him to succeed. If the white-clothed woman continued to pester him, Immortal King Zhanlong's inheritance would fall into the Luosha Crown Prince's hands after he finished his battle. At that time, he really wouldn't have a share of the Immortal King's inheritance. War Immortal's art. The woman in white didn't care about Blood Demon's words. She formed a celestial spell with her fingers, and her body emitted a crystal celestial light. In the next moment, an illusory figure with surging immortal chi condensed behind her. After the celestial shadow appeared, it made a grabbing motion. A ball of sealed immortal force was extracted from the ancestral demon golem that was fighting the Rakshasa Crown Prince, merging with the illusory immortal shadow. The ball of immortal energy within the ancestral devil statue was the immortal energy that Qin Yu had sealed. Originally, Qin Yu had sealed it within the ancestral devil statue in case he needed it. Who would have thought that the woman in white would use it now? After fusing with the celestial force, the celestial shadow's originally illusory body had clearly become a little more solid. The celestial chi surrounding its body had also become a little denser. Since you don't know what's good for you, then don't blame me for being rude. Blood Devil's eyes darkened, his face cold and ruthless. After he roared, the blood curse appeared all over his body. Layers of bloody light shone around him, and he emitted a terrifying aura, each wave stronger than the last. Without any pretense, Blood Devil turned into a streak of bloody light and charged directly at the woman in white. His ferocious aura seemed to want to completely annihilate the woman in white. Go! The woman in white wasn't afraid at all. She pointed a finger, flashing with immortal light. The illusory figure seemed to pass through time and space, instantly appearing in front of Blood Demon. A palm imbued with destructive power struck out. Rumble. An earth-shattering battle erupted once again. Both the woman in white and Blood Demon went all out, unleashing countless killing moves. Everything within a radius of several thousand feet was turned into a battlefield of destruction, annihilating everything. I didn't expect that she would still be so powerful even with only one immortal soul. I really don't know how powerful an ancient immortal was at his peak. The Rakshasa Crown Prince, who was fighting 1 against 4, still had the leisure to watch the battle between the woman in white and Blood Demon. Great shock appeared in the Rakshasa Crown Prince's eyes when he saw the woman's shocking battle strength. If he were to fight the woman in white, he probably wouldn't be able to do anything to her. Of course, while he was still in shock, many thoughts surfaced in the Rakshasa Crown Prince's mind when he saw that Blood Demon was completely trapped by the woman in white. Now that the power of laws left behind by Immortal King Zhanlong was fading away, its suppression on them was weakening. He reckoned that it wouldn't be long before he could completely break free from the suppression of immortal King Zhanlong. At that time, he would be able to seize immortal King Zhanlong's inheritance while the woman in white was still keeping Blood Demon busy. Time slowly passed, and the battle between the two battlefields grew more and more violent. Regardless of whether it was the white-clothed woman, Long Hun, or the others, all of them had sustained serious injuries. Their fighting strength had been greatly affected. On the other hand, the Rakshasa Crown Prince and Blood Demon were also injured, but their auras grew fiercer as the battle went on. By now, even Sky Burier, Sword Immortal, Dragon Soul, and the others had noticed something strange about the Rakshasa Crown Prince and Blood Demon. It seemed that the smaller Qin Yu's immortal shadow was, the more powerful the Rakshasa Crown Prince and Blood Demon were. But even if they noticed this, they couldn't do anything about it. The only thing they could do now was delay the Rakshasa Crown Prince and Blood Demon with all their strength. Only after Qin Yu finished his inheritance would they be able to turn the situation around. Rakshasa, Heavenly Demon. Suddenly, an ear-piercing shriek rang out. An ancient heavenly demon shadow had appeared on the Rakshasa Crown Prince's body. That heavenly demon shadow was howling at the sky. Sky Burier, Sword Immortal, Dragon Soul, and Long Hao felt like their eardrums were about to explode when they heard that shriek. It was as if some kind of destructive power was about to drill into their minds. A strand of chaotic soul power rippled from a mindless ancestor demon statue. A moment later, the soul power ripple disappeared. The ancestor demon statue froze on the spot, completely unresponsive. The soul power that Qin Yu had injected into the ancestor demon statue had been completely annihilated. Within the immortal shadow, Qin Yu, who was receiving the immortal king's inheritance, was slightly moved. He seemed to be affected as well. The pressure of a 9th-level heavenly Dao. He can already unleash the power of a 9th-level heavenly Dao cultivator. Sky Burier, Sword Immortal's expression changed drastically when he saw the terrifying heavenly demon shadow on the Rakshasa Crown Prince. He had stepped into the 9th level of the heavenly Dao before, so he knew how terrifying a 9th-level heavenly Dao existence was. To put it bluntly, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that an ancient emperor of the martial path was as weak as a child before a 9th-level heavenly Dao. Chapter 700. He broke free of the immortal spell suppression so quickly. The white-clothed woman and Bloodseeker's expressions kept changing when they sensed the Luosha Crown Prince's terrifying aura. The seriousness in the white-clothed woman's eyes became even more intense. Just the Blood Demon alone was enough to make her unable to be distracted. Now, there was another 9th-level heavenly Dao expert. Her situation was getting worse and worse. As for Bloodseeker, his expression was extremely ugly. Because he had to focus on fighting the white-clothed woman, he couldn't completely break free of the immortal spell suppression. He didn't expect the Luosha Crown Prince to break free so quickly. Heavenly Beast Fist. After summoning the Luosha Heavenly Beast, the Luosha Crown Prince showed a ferocious expression. Without any hesitation, he roared and punched out. Several fish shadows tore through the air so quickly that Buried Sky Sword Saint, Long Hun, and Long Hao couldn't react at all. Bam! 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 After 3 violent collisions, Buried Sky Sword Saint and the other 2 all spat out blood and flew backward. Their auras were extremely chaotic, and they were severely injured. It was difficult for them to even stand still. As for the Ancestor Demon statue, it had become a puppet without Qin Yu's soul power. The Luosha Crown Prince clearly saw this, so he didn't waste any time on the Ancestor Demon statue. The Luosha Crown Prince was very surprised that the 3 hadn't been killed after taking a direct hit from him. Although his cultivation had only recovered to Heaven Origin, the weakest of the 9 levels of Heavenly Path, the power of Heavenly Path True Essence wasn't something that mere Martial Path True Essence could resist. Is this the end? Buried Sky Sword Saint, Long Hun, and Long Hao looked at the Luosha Crown Prince and the Luosha Heavenly Beast with an extremely terrifying aura. If not for Buried Sky Sword Saint's immortal power, Dragon Soul's space-time power, and Long Hao's eternal Sword Tomb inheritance, they wouldn't have been able to resist. There was no way the three of them could survive that attack. Whoosh! After glancing at the three, the Luosha Crown Prince didn't continue attacking. His figure flashed as he charged toward Qin Yu in the immortal shadow. Their priority now was to secure the succession of the immortal Emperor Zhanlong. At this moment, the immortal shadow was only a few hundred meters tall. If it continued to be delayed, the immortal king's inheritance might completely fall into Qin Yu's hands. This was not the situation that the Rakshasa Crown Prince wanted to see. Layers of immortal shadows. The woman in white noticed the Rakshasa Emperor's intention. She looked at the blood demon, clenched her teeth, and changed her hand seal. Many mysterious celestial shadows appeared and intertwined in the air to stop the Luosha Crown Prince. Scram! The Luosha Crown Prince roared. Demonic chi surged from the Luosha heavenly demon on his body. He flapped his wings and flew toward the incoming celestial shadows. A huge battle broke out between the two sides. The Luosha Crown Prince gave the woman in white a sinister look. He didn't get involved in the battle. In a flash, he charged into the celestial shadow. Not good. Seeing this scene, the expressions of Long Hun, Long Hao, and the white-clothed lady changed drastically. Now, it was the critical moment of Qin Yu's inheritance. Once it was disturbed, the consequences would be extremely serious. However, they couldn't stop the Rakshasa Emperor in their current state. In the celestial shadow, sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed, Qin Yu's expression suddenly changed slightly, and he slowly opened his eyes. Mysterious dragon seals appeared in the depths of his eyes. Each dragon seal contained supreme, immortal might. One could clearly see that there were ancient immortal runes all over Qin Yu's body. They flickered in and out of existence, putting him in a mysterious state. Whoosh! The air shook slightly, and a murderous figure appeared in the celestial shadow. It was the Rakshasa Crown Prince who charged in. The immortal king's inheritance. Seeing the ancient immortal runes on Qin Yu's body, the Rakshasa Crown Prince's eyes burned with passion. The immortal king's inheritance isn't something an ant like you can inherit. Die. In the next moment, the Rakshasa Crown Prince suddenly attacked. His figure flashed, and he charged toward Qin Yu from all directions, leaving behind layers of afterimages. This was the Rakshasa clan's ultimate killing technique, called Rakshasa Slaughters the Sky. Its power was endless. Naturally, Qin Yu wouldn't just stand there and do nothing in the face of the Rakshasa Crown Prince's sure-kill technique. The ancient immortal runes all over his body flickered with immortal light. Whoosh! Just as the Rakshasa Crown Prince's killing move was about to hit Qin Yu from all directions, an ancient token appeared on Qin Yu's body. A white-clothed woman appeared out of nowhere along with the snowflakes. Rumble. Following this, a deafening explosion could be heard as an icy palm over a zhang wide burst out from the celestial figure. A figure was sent flying several hundred feet away by the icy palm. His aura was chaotic and violent. What happened? Dragon Soul and the others had thought that Qin Yu was in danger, but when they looked, they realized that it was the Rakshasa Crown Prince who'd been sent flying. Their expressions brightened. Could it be that Qin Yu's inheritance had ended, and he still had the power to suppress a 9th-level heavenly Tao? But the icy palm didn't have Qin Yu's aura. Even the white-clothed lady and blood demon, who were engaged in an intense battle, looked over in shock. The situation in front of them was something that even they had not expected. Cough, cough. After stabilizing himself, the Rakshasa Crown Prince coughed violently and spat out blood. 9 Palaces Emperor Force. How could such an existence appear here? After suppressing his internal injuries, the Rakshasa Crown Prince looked up at the icy light pillar with unconcealable shock. Fairy Shulan. Within the celestial silhouette, Qin Yu looked at the figure whose clothes were as white as snow, accompanied by snowflakes. There was an unsuppressible excitement on his face. The figure was none other than Fairy Xiulan, who'd left the heavenly domain for the snow domain. However, Fairy Xiulan didn't have a physical body. She'd floated out of the snow fairy imprint, so she was probably just a soul. Fairy Xiulan smiled at Qin Yu and didn't accept his words. She tapped her finger lightly, and circles of snow-white light spread out and covered the entire celestial shadow. Whoosh! Immediately, one could clearly see that the speed at which the celestial shadow was assimilating into Qin Yu's body had become extremely fast. Before long, the entire celestial shadow entered Qin Yu's body, allowing Qin Yu to absorb all of the inheritance. At the same time, Fairy Xiulan's body gradually turned illusory and finally disappeared completely. The snow fairy imprint also fell from the sky. Qin Yu caught the snow fairy imprint and held it tightly in his hand. Although his cultivation had reached the 9th level of the heavenly Tao, Qin Yu still felt that there was an unreachable distance between him and Fairy Xiulan. However, with immortal King Zhanlong's inheritance, Qin Yu firmly believed that one day he would catch up to Fairy Xiulan. Chapter 701. Gurgle, Gurgle, Gurgle. When the seal on Qin Yu's snow fairy mark was triggered, Fairy Xiulan's soul power appeared. In an incomparably hot world of molten lava, a white-clothed woman was sitting cross-legged. Her eyes trembled slightly before she slowly opened them. This white-clothed woman was Xiulan's true body. Have I finally reached the 9th level of the heavenly Tao? Sensing the activation of the snow fairy mark, Xiulan's eyes flickered slightly. But a moment later, the flicker disappeared, and Fairy Xiulan's eyes regained their indifference. That indifference was devoid of any emotion, as if she had no human emotions or desires. Roar! At this moment, an earth-shattering roar suddenly appeared in this world of molten lava. A ferocious demon formed from molten lava covered the sky and condensed in this world of molten lava. With an extremely destructive aura, it pressed down on Fairy Xiulan. You are the last of the 12 ferocious, primordial demons. Fairy Xiulan stood up calmly and unsheathed the ancient sword on her back. Sword chi containing mysterious ancient runes spread out and filled the air. A mere mortal dares to kill me and attain the immortal Tao? Wishful thinking. After the ferocious demon roared, it turned into molten lava and instantly covered the entire world, the heavenly domain. Damn it, has he already obtained the immortal king's inheritance? Seeing the immortal figure disappear and Qin Yu appear, the Rakshasa Crown Prince and Blood Demon's expressions darkened. Especially the Rakshasa Crown Prince. He had thought that the immortal king's inheritance would be within reach once he broke through the suppression of the heavenly domain's laws. Who would have thought that Qin Yu would have such a treasure on him? Now that the immortal king's inheritance had completely merged with Qin Yu, it would be extremely troublesome to obtain the immortal king's inheritance. Of course, even if it was troublesome, the Rakshasa Crown Prince and Blood Demon naturally wouldn't miss out on the immortal king's inheritance. After all, Qin Yu had just obtained the inheritance, and his cultivation and battle strength were extremely weak. Once Qin Yu completely controlled the immortal king's inheritance, they would have no chance at all. Success. Long Hun, Long Hao, and Burying Heaven Sword Immortal looked at Qin Yu who had appeared. Their expressions were flickering with joy. Now, the pressure that Qin Yu was emitting made their hearts palpitate. They felt as if they were facing a god. This aura, could it be? A strange expression surfaced in the eyes of the white-clothed lady. This was because the aura that Qin Yu exuded was something that even she was rather wary of. In fact, she was even a little afraid of him. How do you two want to die? Seeing that Dragon's soul and the others were heavily injured, Qin Yu's eyes were filled with killing intent. He looked at the Rakshasa Crown Prince and Blood Demon as if they were already dead. Umph! You have only reached the sky origin stage. Do you think you are invincible? Sensing the disappearance of the icy palm and the 9 palace emperor power that made his heart palpitate, the Luosha crown prince's expression became ferocious and terrifying again. Without the help of the 9 palace emperor power, he would not be afraid of Qin even if he was in the Sky Origin stage. After all, the Sky Origin stage was the weakest of the 9 levels of the heavenly path. If the Rakshasa Crown Prince could completely break free of his shackles and go all out, he could easily crush a mere Sky Origin stage cultivator. Blood Demon did not speak, but his blood-red eyes were filled with chilling, killing intent. At the same time, the terrifying aura on his body grew stronger with each wave, as if it was breaking free of some kind of suppression. Hey, you were right. In the Sky Domain, I am invincible. Qin Yu smiled indifferently. Without further ado, he waved his sleeve. Heaven and earth immediately changed color. Rolling thunder surged between heaven and earth, oppressing one's soul. At this moment, whether it was the 9 provinces of the Sky Domain or the extraterritorial demons, they all felt as if an immortal god was about to descend. The pressure that came from the depths of their souls made everyone, from the ancient emperor to the savage beasts, want to kneel down and worship him. How is this possible? You, the Rakshasa Crown Prince, who was about to use his killing move, saw the layers of thunderclouds gathering in the sky. His eyes widened, and his expression changed drastically. Immortal spell rules. Blood Demon, whose aura had been growing stronger, felt as if a giant mountain was pressing down on him. His rapidly increasing aura came to an abrupt halt. He could clearly sense that there was a layer of invisible and untouchable power scattered on his body. The power was as thin as a veil, but the divine might it contained was something Blood Demon could not resist at all. The power that had been rising in his body was instantly pushed back to the 9th level of the martial path. As I thought, the woman in white had already sensed it, so she was not very surprised. However, she was still very surprised that Qin Yu could control the immortal spell rules that Zhan Long, Immortal King, had left behind in the Sky Domain so quickly. It seemed that Qin Yu had not been chosen as the successor by Zhan Long, Immortal King, because of luck. Lightning Fall. Qin Yu ignored the shocked Rakshasa Crown Prince and Blood Demon and gently raised his right hand. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the thunderclouds, and countless lightning dragons roiled in the clouds. It was a terrifying sight. Oh no! The Rakshasa Crown Prince and Blood Demon felt their hair stand on end. Without thinking, they immediately used secret techniques and fled in 2 different directions. Their cultivation was currently suppressed by the immortal spell rules of the Sky Domain, so they could not use much of their battle strength. If he continued to stay here, not to mention obtaining the Immortal King's inheritance, he might even lose his life here. Die! Qin Yu's indifferent voice sounded almost at the same time. Crack! Dazzling lightning tore through the sky, leaving a deep crack in the world. 2 extremely dazzling lightning bolts appeared alongside the lightning. A moment later, the lightning gradually dissipated. The Rakshasa Crown Prince and Blood Demon had been killed by the lightning, leaving behind only 2 balls of pure soul power. Qin Yu moved his finger, and the 2 balls of pure soul power merged into the 2 fake souls in Qin Yu's Sea of Soul. Although Zhan Long, Immortal King, had helped Qin Yu form the 2 fake souls, they could not exist forever. To be more precise, the soul power of the 2 fake souls was constantly flowing away. Although the loss of soul power was extremely weak, Qin Yu still had to pay attention to replenish it. Otherwise, the 2 fake souls would crumble when the soul power completely dissipated. One move, Sky Burier, Sword Immortal, Long Hun, and Long Hao were dumbfounded. They had fought with their lives, but they could not even stop the Rakshasa Crown Prince and Blood Demon. However, Qin Yu was able to kill the Rakshasa Crown Prince and the Rakshasa Crown Prince merely by raising his hand. This sort of strength was truly too astonishing. Whoosh! Qin Yu stepped forward and appeared in front of Long Hao and Long Hun, whose auras were extremely unstable. He patted them lightly, and pure immortal qi merged into their bodies. Thank you, Master. Long Hao's expression brightened. He felt his injuries recover in an instant, and even his body's foundation seemed to have undergone a transformation. His understanding of the limits of the ancient emperor and the 9 levels of the heavenly Tao had also become much clearer. Chapter 702. What's your current cultivation level? Dragon's Soul asked curiously after absorbing the dragon chi and regaining a ruddy complexion. Hearing the dragon soul's words, Sky Burier, Sword Deity, and Long Hao also looked over curiously. The heavenly domain immortals' laws made it impossible for them to sense Qin Yu's exact cultivation level. They only knew that he had reached the heavenly origin realm. Middle stage heavenly origin realm. Qin Yu didn't hide it. The heavenly Tao realm was divided into 9 major realms. Each realm was divided into 4 subrealms: early stage, mid-stage, late stage, and perfected. If immortal King Zhanlong's inheritance was completed normally, Qin Yu's cultivation level would definitely be higher than it was now. However, due to the threat of Luosha Crown Prince and Blood Immortal, Fairy Shualan's soul power appeared and helped Qin Yu complete the inheritance. As a result, Qin Yu's cultivation level was only at the mid-stage heavenly origin realm. Of course, after the transition period is over, Qin Yu's cultivation will experience a period of enormous growth. After helping Dragon Soul and Long Hao recover from their injuries, Qin Yu gave Sky Burier Sword Immortal an immortal Yuan Spirit Jade. Sky Burier Sword Immortal's foundation was damaged because of this, so Qin Yu naturally couldn't owe him a favor. This immortal Yuan Spirit Jade was one of the few immortal treasures in Immortal King Zhanlong's treasury. It contained a vast amount of immortal qi. Such a vast amount of immortal qi. Sky Burier Sword Immortal sensed it and was extremely shocked. Then, he put it away solemnly. This immortal Yuan Spirit Jade was undoubtedly a peerless treasure to Sky Burier Sword Immortal, who walked the immortal Tao. With this immortal Yuan Spirit Jade, Sky Burier Sword Immortal wouldn't have to search for immortal qi to cultivate in the future. What do you want? Qin Yu appeared in front of the white-clothed woman. This time, Luosha Crown Prince and Blood Demon had invaded. This white-clothed woman had contributed greatly. Otherwise, Dragon Soul and the other 2 wouldn't have been able to hold off Luosha Crown Prince and Blood Demon for so long. A golden token. It's something my ancestor left behind. It can help me form an immortal body. Seeing that Qin Yu didn't plan to stand her up, the white-clothed woman was extremely excited. Golden token? With a command in his heart, Qin Yu's consciousness entered the treasure vault left behind by the immortal king. After a short moment, he found a sealed golden command token. The golden token seemed to be suppressing some kind of creature. There was a strong and terrifying will surging within it. Even Qin Yu felt his heart palpitate. It really fell into the hands of immortal King Zhanlong. The white-clothed woman was extremely excited. After receiving the token, she immediately sent a series of profound imprints into the golden token. With a flash of golden light, the golden token immediately entered the white-clothed woman's body. In the next moment, halos of sacred golden light radiated from the white-clothed woman's body. Her body started to solidify bit by bit, and the restriction that the 9 gods' deity extermination painting had on the white-robed woman was quickly disappearing. Let's go. After obtaining the inheritance of the immortal king, all the treasures in the immortal vault fell into Qin Yu's hands. Therefore, Qin Yu and the others did not stay in the immortal trove for long. They left the immortal trove. After obtaining the inheritance of immortal King Zhanlong and being able to control the rules of immortal spells in the heavenly domain, Qin Yu was like a god in the heavenly domain. He could go to the 9 states of the heavenly domain and the extraterritorial demon tribe with a single thought. The entire heavenly domain was under Qin Yu's control. It could be said that he truly controlled the life and death of all living beings. Of course, Qin Yu did not become arrogant because of this. He was able to do this with the help of the rules of immortal spells left behind by immortal King Zhanlong. In the heavenly domain, he was invincible. However, after leaving the heavenly domain, he was only at the initial stage of the heavenly origin realm. With the help of the rules of immortal spells, Qin Yu wiped out all the inheritances of his enemies from his previous life. Whether they escaped to the depths of the wildlands or the extraterritorial demon tribe, they could not escape. However, at this moment, Qin Yu discovered that AOD, who had sneaked into the extraterritorial demon tribe to prepare to deal with the extraterritorial demon tribe, had disappeared. Even the entire dragon tribe in the extraterritorial demon tribe had disappeared without a trace. Qin Yu specially made a trip to the extraterritorial demon tribe's territory. There, he saw a huge dragon claw mark. That dragon claw seemed to have torn through the void and left millions of huge spatial cracks in the extraterritorial demon tribe's territory. The extraterritorial demon tribe was plunged into misery and suffering. Just the dragon claw alone was 1,000 feet long. It was hard to imagine what level of dragon tribe it was. After investigating and finding nothing, Qin Yu used the rules of immortal spells to seal the spatial crack and return to the 9 states of the heavenly domain. A few days later, Qin Yu, Long Hao, and Long Hun returned to the Meru world where the Qin family and the Long Hao clan were. Ever since Qin Yu left, it had already been over 10 years since he returned. In these 10 years, the Qin family and the Long Hao clan had developed rapidly. Although they could not be compared to the top forces in the 9 states of the heavenly domain, they were enough to establish themselves in the 9 states. Qin Yu brought them to the sacred dragon sect to cultivate. My immortal body has been completely stabilized. It's time to leave. On this day, Qin Yu was playing with his parents when the woman in white tore through the void and appeared. Haven't you already condensed your immortal body? Why haven't you recovered to the ancient immortal realm? Qin Yu looked at the woman in white with some curiosity. He sensed an extremely terrifying pressure from the woman in white. However, the woman in white did not have the special immortal Tao fluctuations of immortal King Zhanlong. In the myriad realms, the orthodox martial Tao is only the 9 levels of the martial Tao, the 9 levels of the heavenly Tao, and the legendary immortal realm. As for the ancient immortals and gods, they're all formed by the development of the martial Tao in the heavenly domain. In the entire heavenly domain, only immortal King Zhanlong has truly stepped into the immortal Tao. Therefore, if I must say, I am probably equivalent to the heavenly venerate realm now. The woman in white said, Heavenly venerate realm? Qin Yu and Long Hun were shocked when they heard this. Heavenly origin realm, heavenly wheel realm, heavenly calamity realm. Only after crossing these 3 realms could one reach the heavenly venerate realm, as expected of someone who had once stepped into the ancient immortal realm. Once she condensed her body, her cultivation reached a level that they could only look up to. My name is Sikong Fonlon. I hope we can meet again in the outer realm in the future. The woman in white cupped her fists at Qin Yu, then tore through the void and left in the direction of the immortal seeking ancient road. It seems like it's time for us to leave the heavenly domain. Long Hun looked at Qin Yu. During this period of time, with Qin Yu's help, Long Hun had also crossed the limit of the 9 levels of the martial Tao and stepped into the heavenly origin realm. However, after entering the heavenly origin realm, Long Hun realized that the heavenly origin realm was the peak of the heavenly domain due to immortal King Zhanlong's immortal law. It could not advance any further. Yes, Qin Yu nodded slightly. During this period of time, his cultivation did not make much progress. While the immortal law protected the heavenly domain, it also limited the development of the heavenly domain's martial Tao. Although Qin Yu could control the immortal law's immortal law, he could not resist it or even change it. 3 months later, Qin Yu left the ancestral demon statue to his parents. After settling everything, he went to the immortal seeking ancient road with Long Hun. The grudges in the heavenly domain had been settled, but Qin Yu could not stop here. His master Xintian Senzin's life and death, and Fairy Shuolan's whereabouts, were all matters that concerned Qin Yu. He had to go to the Xian domain and Shui domain first. In addition, Qin Yu also wanted to see the 9 origin ancestral dragons and the eternal immortal empire that Zhan Long had mentioned. Chapter 703. Knowing that Qin Yu was leaving the Heaven region, Long Hao, Sky Burier Sword Immortal, the Jiang siblings, Lin Chongqing, and the others all went to see him off. Long Hao, Sky Burier Sword Immortal, and the others were only one step away from reaching the 9th level of the Heavenly Path. Because of this, the Heavenly Domain, which was protected by the laws of the Immortal Law, was the most suitable place for them to cultivate. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 100 zhang-wide hole appeared in the void, and the sound of wind whistled incessantly. The hole seemed to have been formed by someone blasting open the void. The inside of the hole was gray, and nothing could be seen. Only vast and profound fluctuations spread out, tempting the cultivators who came here at all times. Immortal when Ancient Road, a group of figures appeared as if they had teleported, and they sized up the hole. These people were Qin Yu, the Dragon Soul, Sky Burier Sword Immortal, and the others. It was not their first time coming to the Immortal when Ancient Road. Of course, only Sky Burier Sword Immortal and Lin Chongqing had entered before. Even the Jiang siblings had not explored it before. Let's go. After a while, Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul stepped into the Immortal when Ancient Road. The Immortal when Ancient Road was left behind by Immortal King Zhan Long. Martial artists in the Heaven region could leave through the Immortal when Ancient Road after breaking through the limits of the martial path and reaching the 9th level of the Heavenly Path. When Immortal King Zhan Long was asleep, there were foreign experts who sneaked into the Heaven region through the Immortal when Ancient Road. Of course, such a situation would not happen now. As the immortal laws of the Heaven region became stronger, the entire Heaven region was like a cage. It was easy to get out, but it was impossible to get in unless Qin Yu personally led the way. Seeing Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul enter the Immortal when Ancient Road, they went in search of a higher martial path. Lin Chongqing, Sky Burier, Sword Immortal, the Jiang siblings, and the others were slightly moved. Long Hao clenched his fists tightly, and his expression was determined. It would not be long before he stepped onto the Immortal when Ancient Road, and followed in Qin Yu's footsteps. After entering the immortal-seeking Ancient Road, Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul saw an ancient road that extended to the ends of the starry skies. They couldn't see the end of it, and had no idea where it led to. Hoo. On the immortal-seeking Ancient Road, there were ear-splitting gusts of wind sweeping past at all times, filled with an incomparably destructive might. Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul immediately circulated their heavenly Tao veritable essence energy to barely resist. The deeper one ventured into the Ancient Road, the more terrifying the dangers that appeared along the way. There were meteorites falling from the sky, heavenly flames burning, floods sweeping across, cracks in the void that appeared without warning and could cut through everything, and there were world-destroying ferocious beasts that only existed in myths and legends. If Qin Yu and Long Hao were not protected by the immortal artifacts of the Battle Dragon Immortal Emperor, they would not have been able to avoid the dangers so easily. Qin Yu felt fortunate that he had left behind immortal treasures for his first senior brother, Long Hao, and the other two. Thinking about it, when they stepped onto the immortal-seeking Ancient Road in the future, even if they couldn't make it through, they would still be able to return to the Heaven region safely. It's here the world crossing sea. After a total of 10 days and 10 nights, a vast and boundless sea of stars appeared before Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul. This sea of stars was called the World Crossing Sea, and it was the boundary that separated the heavenly domain and the outer domain. If an ordinary martial artist crossed this boundary, it was basically impossible for them to return to the heavenly domain, unless they were like the buried Sky Sword Immortal, who had coincidentally reincarnated and returned to the heavenly domain. After crossing the World Crossing Sea, we will be in the real outer domain. Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul were excited. In both their previous and current lives, they had always wanted to leave the heavenly domain and head to the outer domain to pursue a higher martial world. Now, this day had finally arrived. Qin Yu moved his left hand and took out the Snow Immortal Imprint. Although the Snow Immortal Imprint could no longer protect Qin Yu, as Fairy Shuolan's soul power had disappeared. However, with the Snow Immortal Imprint, Qin Yu could go to the Snow Domain where Fairy Shuolan was. Judging from the scene back then, Fairy Shuolan should have caused a big commotion in the Snow Domain. As long as he went to the Snow Domain, he should be able to find clues about Fairy Shuolan. As for the Xian Domain, Qin Yu had not gone to his master's whereabouts yet. Sikong Fenglan had once said that Star Luo's cultivation had most likely reached the Sky Saint realm. Although Qin Yu was eager to save his master, he would not foolishly go to his death. Therefore, the most important thing for Qin Yu now was to find Fairy Shuolan. Dong! The moment they stepped into the sea of stars, a ripple appeared in the void. The celestial spell laws on Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul also completely disappeared at this moment, not leaving a trace. It also meant that this place was completely out of the area covered by the immortal Emperor Zhanlong's celestial spell laws. Qin Yu and Long Hao turned around to look. They discovered that the immortal-seeking ancient road had already disappeared. Behind them was also a vast sea of stars. Of course, Qin Yu could still sense the existence of the immortal-seeking ancient road. When Qin Yu crossed the boundary of the heaven domain and entered the realm-crossing sea, it was a world with 9 blazing suns, wantonly roasting the earth. A figure with a leaf in his mouth and his hands behind his head, lying down on an ancient tree to enjoy the shade, suddenly opened his eyes. He left the heaven domain so soon. Does that mean he has already obtained the succession of the immortal Emperor Zhanlong? If Qin Yu were to appear here, he would definitely recognize that this man looked exactly the same as his previous incarnation. It was the mysterious person that the heaven-burying sword immortal had met in the demon tribe. His pace is pretty fast. I hope he won't stumble again this time. The person slowly closed his eyes and chewed on the leaf leisurely. At the same time, in an extremely dark, deep sea without the slightest bit of light, an immemorial ferocious beast of unknown size, Kunpeng, suddenly trembled. A young man in a black outfit who was sleeping on the Kunpeng slowly opened his eyes as if he had sensed something. As the young man opened his eyes, the dark sea immediately brightened up. King, countless powerful creatures in the sea were awakened. They knelt respectfully toward the young man in a black outfit. The entire sea fell silent. The young man in a black outfit sat up lazily. He looked in a certain direction and murmured, "Is he back? Such a strong aura." Is this what the heaven-burying sword immortal meant by the different rules of the outer realm? In the realm-crossing sea of stars, Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul used an ancient talisman to summon a spiritual boat that traveled rapidly in the realm-crossing sea of stars. After the initial excitement, Qin Yu and Long Hao realized that the outer realm was filled with an indescribable aura. That kind of aura seemed to freeze the air and the void. They could travel 10,000 miles in an instant in the heaven domain, but in the realm-crossing sea of stars, they couldn't even fly, let alone travel 10,000 miles. It was as if they had just started cultivating. The heaven-burying sword immortal had told Qin Yu and Long Hao that the rules of the outer realm were different from the heaven domain. However, Qin Yu and Long Hao didn't understand what the so-called different rules of the outer realm meant until they experienced it themselves. Chapter 704. With the help of the Snow Immortal Mark, he could sense a faint ripple of energy from the Snow Domain. Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul sat on the ancient talisman spirit vessel and traveled rapidly toward the Snow Domain in the boundless starry realm crossing sea. A month passed in the blink of an eye. Rumble. On this day, when Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul were hurrying on their journey and absorbing origin energy to cultivate, the sky suddenly darkened. It was as if the curtain of night had descended. along with the darkening of the sky, an extremely terrifying and vast divine might appeared. Qin Yu and the dragon soul who were in the middle of training were suddenly suppressed by that boundless divine might. Their bodies shook and they spat out a mouthful of blood. What's that? The dragon soul's eyes widened in astonishment when it looked up. Qin Yu promptly raised his head to look. Only then did he discover that it was not nighttime. Instead, in the sky above, there was an enormous beast that covered the entire sky. The gigantic beast could be said to have covered the sky and the sun. Wherever it passed, its shadow would cover everything. Not a single ray of light could enter. It's shaped like a turtle, completely black, and has 6 legs. Is this the legendary dark beast of starry sky? When Qin Yu saw the appearance of that enormous beast, he immediately thought of an ancient beast that had only appeared in legends, even in the myriad realms of the universe. According to the records of the battle dragon Immortal Emperor, the dark beasts of starry sky were born in the endless starry sky. Their bodies were tens of thousands of li wide when they were born. They fed on the stars and lived in the star ocean. An adult dark beast of starry sky could grow to a few million li wide. They could easily destroy a star region. Every time a dark beast of starry sky appeared, it would bring a great calamity. Whoosh! While Qin Yu and the dragon soul were astonished by the size of the dark beast of starry sky, a giant whirlpool suddenly appeared in the star ocean. The whirlpool was tens of thousands of li wide. The ancient talisman spirit vessel that Qin Yu and the dragon soul were on happened to be in the middle of the whirlpool. No matter how hard Qin Yu tried, he could not control the ancient talisman spirit vessel. Therefore, Qin Yu and the dragon soul could only abandon the vessel and flee as far as they could from the whirlpool. Judging from the size of the whirlpool, there was no doubt that there was an extremely terrifying creature in the star transboundary sea. It might even be stronger than the dark beast of starry sky. Boom! Suddenly, the seawater at the center of the whirlpool exploded, sending waves tens of thousands of li high. A ferocious behemoth tens of thousands of kilometers in size rose from the vortex and bit at the dark star beast in the sky. The ferocious beast that charged out of the realm-crossing sea had the body of a flood dragon. It had no horns on its head, claws on its abdomen, and wings on its back. Its wings as wingses of starry sky, covered starry sky, starry nights, starry sky. Deep sea dragon. Again, the dragon, starry sky. This deep sea giant WYRM was no less powerful than the dark beasts. Dragon Blood was starry sky dragon, was a legendary creatures of origin. It was rumored that they preyed on true dragons, heavenly phoenixes, and other sentient life forms. From the looks of it, the rumors were probably true. The deep-sea giant Jiao Dragon was clearly targeting the dark star beast. Roar! The starry sky dark beast sensed this and let out a heaven-shaking roar. Its 6 legs stomped fiercely in air. After the tens of thousands of stars condensed, they actually evolved into 6 stars that bombarded the deep-sea giant dragon that was flapping its wings. Those were real stars. Each one of them was incomparably huge and contained boundless stellar energy. Roar! The deep-sea giant flood dragon showed no signs of weakness. Its mouth was like a black hole, and its claws were like divine blades. The 6 stars were either crushed, devoured, or destroyed. They didn't cause any damage to the deep-sea colossal flood dragon, which then crashed into the star dark beast. Rumble! Immediately, the 2 legendary ferocious beasts began a battle of life and death. The heavens and earth shook, and the tsunamis came one after another. As the 2 ferocious beasts fought, countless huge abyss-like spatial rifts appeared in the void, swallowing everything in their way. The seawater disappeared into those spatial rifts in an instant. Fortunately, these 2 ferocious beasts were fighting on the world-crossing sea. If it were anywhere else, it would have caused an immeasurable disaster. Not good. Of course, for Qin Yu and the dragon soul, who were unable to escape from the battle, it was not an exaggeration to say that it was a disaster. In the face of the extremely terrifying aftermath, they were unable to resist at all, and their injuries became more serious. To make matters worse, the spatial rifts were increasing in number, and the spatial fluctuations were becoming more and more chaotic. The entire world shook violently as if it would collapse at any time. Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul had completely become a lone boat in the chaotic sea, and they could be drowned at any time. Spacetime slow flow. Spacetime illusory realm. Spacetime horizontal shift. Sensing that the spatial fluctuations were becoming more and more violent, the Dragon Soul's hands kept changing as it immediately used its spacetime superpower. As its cultivation reached the heavenly origin realm, the Dragon Soul's spacetime superpower had also reached another level. It was called spacetime horizontal shift, and it could move the void, which was similar to space teleportation. Of course, the spacetime horizontal shift could not move the user. However, it could still be used as a killing technique at a critical moment. Unfortunately, although the spacetime Dao was extremely mysterious, it was still not enough in front of these two legendary, ferocious beasts. In an instant, the spacetime defense set up by the Dragon's Soul collapsed inch by inch, and it was unable to resist at all. I can only give it a try. Qin Yu's expression was extremely solemn as he took out an ancient divine talisman. This was one of the few divine talismans in the Zhanlong Celestial King's treasury. It was called the Divine Travel Talisman, and it was rumored that it could allow one to travel 10,000 miles in an instant. It was a supreme, life-saving method. Of course, to activate this divine travel talisman, it required a huge amount of energy to support it. With Qin Yu's current cultivation, the consequences of forcefully activating the divine travel talisman would be extremely serious. However, given the current situation, he could not care so much. If he continued to wait, he would only be buried in the chaotic battle between the two star beasts. Whoosh! After making preparations, Qin Yu poured all of the Zhanlong celestial origin energy in his body into the divine travel talisman. As the divine travel talisman glowed faintly, Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul could only feel the scene in front of them moving at the speed of light. In just an instant, they were thousands of miles away from their previous location. Seeing that they were about to leave the battlefield, the pale-faced Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul were overjoyed. As long as they activated the divine travel talisman one more time, they would be able to leave the battlefield completely. Crack! However, at that moment, an extremely clear, cracking sound entered Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul's ears. In an instant, Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul saw that the surrounding space had turned incomparably pitch black and chaotic. Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul were startled. They turned around and saw a few hundred feet wide spatial rift appear in their sight. The space they were in had turned into a spatial rift in an instant. Damn it! Before Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul could even react, the spatial turbulence that contained a destructive might had already drowned the two of them. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.